Hello, everybody. My name is Ulfgarður, and welcome back to Summerstone. This is one of our recent breaks from the normal Let's Play gaming that we do because we're working on some world building stuff. If you don't know what that is, that's just creating a fictional setting for writing, for RPGs, your favorite video games that take place in somewhere that's not real. They've had sessions like this. And we are just continuing. We're working on a city for a fictional world I created to play tabletop role playing games in, and that I'm working on writing a book series about. So we're just continuing on. I'll give you a summary of what you missed if you missed the first couple rounds of this. But first up, Rad is here first, it looks like. Good to see you, Rad. Always happy to have you, and I know you particularly are enjoying seeing this sort of stuff and having these sorts of brainstorming sessions. I hope you've been well, my friend. I know. I know I haven't been in any of the games we usually play together recently, but I hope you've been doing all right. And I'm looking forward to getting back into them later this week in the next couple days. Um, so let's see. I think I'm gonna wait to do announcements because one, if Rad, if you're the only one here, um, you've pretty much heard them. It's a lot of the stuff I put in the Discord today. So if you have any questions about that or anything else, as always, just feel free to pipe in when you can. I know you're probably at work and not able to super be active in chat, but that's okay. We love lurkers here. Lurkers are the backbone of any decent channel, in my opinion. And so we're just kind of here to hang out. Um, but let's see. Yeah, I the last time I streamed this was on Friday, and I had intended to do a lot more, but I just suddenly started feeling uh, both physically and a lot of mentally just not up to the task. So we kind of shut down a little early, and uh, I just kind of took the weekend to relax because it just kind of hit me like a wave, and took a little bit of the weekend to sort of get over that hump of feeling under the weather physically and mentally. But we're doing okay. Animals being neurotic troublemakers notwithstanding. Um, but yeah, so we're just gonna get back to it today, and let's go ahead and do a review of what we have so far. Let me get you onto the right screen. That's our music list. Let me go ahead and turn that on now before I forget. So yes, we are listening to Fantasy and Dreamy, a music playlist from Epidemic Sound that, as far as I can tell, is royalty free. So if anybody is interested in listening to this in the future for yourselves, I can absolutely send you the link if you just let me know. But let's go ahead and put some nice music on, and let me know if the volume is a little wonky, too high or too low. And then let me switch you over to the screen we actually want to be keeping track of today. Because I am great at this. Okay, not that one. We want settlements. Okay, here we go. This looks better, I think, right? So if you're tuning in and I'm unaware you're here, welcome. Or if you're watching this as a VOD, as a guest or a regular, welcome. What we're doing is we have a third-party book for tabletop RPGs based on uh, the most popular role-playing game out there that involves dice. I'm hesitant to say the name right now because there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the official everything about that. That's not what we're here to discuss. But a great third-party book called Spectacular Settlements, published by Nord Games LLC, and it's all about helping you create information for settlements of assorted sizes, and right now we are working on cities, particularly the city of Summerstone, which I will get there. Let me get caught up on what page I'm on my hard copy here, because that's usually easier for me to track than what you guys are looking at on the screen. 153. Oh, hey, look at that. I was right on it. Didn't even realize. So I don't think we were quite on it, because there was... Yeah, we did some of these rolls. But so as you can see, it's a lot of tables that help you randomly determine things, or give you, if nothing else, you can choose from them deliberately or make up your own entry if you realize none of them fit what you're after. But the whole system is inspired or designed to give you direction and focus, to put in details fairly quickly as far as, you know, fleshing out an entire, in this case, huge city, major urban area in this world without having to spend forever doing it. Like I spend forever doing this stuff anyway because I love it, but not everybody who runs these sorts of games puts this much detail into their prep, and that's perfectly okay. You can still create living, dynamic environments. But these are things I like to know, because they're, when I am trying to portray this setting, especially for the first time to somebody new in the game or in the book series I'm chipping away at, these are things that help me really get a sense of this one place's unique identity in this entire world. And this book helps you do that quickly. If I wasn't on stream rambling like I tend to do when talking about my homebrew world and the games that have taken place in it, I can usually do this in a significantly more time efficient way, but where's the fun in that? I'm thinking about getting that book. Rad, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It is fantastic. And one of the great things about this book is sometimes you have results, if you're doing it completely random, that are somewhat conflicting, or that seem at face value like they don't necessarily work together. But that gives you a chance to really come up with why that might still be the case. And you end up, if you're open to that sort of thing and working with it, it ends up where I think you can come up with a lot of the really unique things that make something stand out. All those weird little ticks about a particular place, like a local custom, or something that just gives it those little idiosyncrasies that every place seems to have, and you never really know about unless you live there, or unless it's really, really popular and only the locals know why it's a thing at all. So like with Summerstone, our summary of what we have so far, our summary stone, if you will. I can't resist. That's how you know I'm ready on all cylinders, as I start making bad jokes like that. Some of this was kind of preordained in that there are some continuity things before creating this on stream with you guys that I have to adhere to, but for the most part, almost everything here is determined by what's in the book and on the system. But Summerstone is the wealthiest city in my fictional world. Let me pull up the map just so folks can see it. We won't dwell there very long, but my fictional world is called Evard, and Summerstone is... Summerstone is the wealthiest city in Evard. Specifically... that's not one to open. Alright, I have a cheat for this. It'll look a little different than the maps you've seen before, but I have a cheat for this. Bear with me. So, it's the wealthiest city in the world, and it has been for a very long time. The city has been around for over 1,000 years. And that's honestly, in the part of the world that we're working in for this, that's not super uncommon. There are a lot of very long-standing existing places in Evard, largely because when I made up the numbers of how long things have been around in the eras of the world, I didn't necessarily comprehend how long something was when I said that there was a war that lasted for 6,000 years. That was an entire age unto itself. But nonetheless, it's been around for a while, and it's had this reputation and status as the world's wealthiest city for a while, because it's home to the most prolific gold mines in the world. And even after a very, very long time, it still holds that status. as the world's wealthiest city. There we go. Okay, so here's Evard-ish. Yeah, this is my. I have a website for Evard because I have a wiki that I have worked on pretty hard in the past. Not so much as I work on the manuscript for the book. Um, just that has kind of been my notes record for the world as much as anything else. I had a Patreon for it. That's not what I'm here. I'm not pitching Patreon at all. Don't worry about that. But that's why you see blurbs and stuff that are different, because these are my summaries for all these different parts of the world, because I want to do this process for every one of them. There are over 100 named settlements on the map, so there's a lot to do. But here's where we're going right here. This is Summerstone. This river, you can't see it on this map versus the one I've shown before. Um, but this river marks the eastern edge of the country of Gairland. Thandor down here is the capital of Gairland. Summerstone just happens to be where the wealthiest gold mines are. And they're in these mountains, which are called the Gold Stream Mountains because the gold flows out of them like water. We also determined, I had an aha light bulb moment initially, that maybe that's where they found out that there was gold worth, exploring for. It was in the water. So at the same time, you have a mountain stream. Gold Stream Hold is the name of this whole part of the country overall. Like in Skyrim, you have the holds with their main city where the local nobleman sits, and that's exactly what Summerstone is. So Summerstone, think Whiterun as a very loose, just sort of structure, like geopolitically, very similar. It's ruled by a jarl, much like Skyrim, but more so than more deliberately historical inspired by what a jarl is, which Skyrim didn't altogether get wrong. But this whole country is inspired by Viking Age Scandinavia, which is a time period I love. I reenact it, and so that's the whole thing with Gairland, minus some stuff we talked about before. Um, yeah, sorry, Red. If you, I think it's just Nord Games LLC. Sorry, I saw your message again, and before as my stop there to change subject. If I think it's just nordgamesllc.com. Um, that should be where you can go to get it. And there's a free PDF like preview you can get just to look through it yourself, as well as most of their other books, I believe, have free PDF copies you can look at. The whole PDF copy that we're using today, you can just buy online if you don't want the hard copy. I love hard copies. Um, but also the PDF sheets I'm filling out, you guys won't really see it. But all of the results of our rolls are put into a sheet that is designed by these same people to be a quick reference for all of the shit that we're working on today and all of the results of our stuff. And that's all available on their website. Like, I could come up with my own display of how I want to show all this information, and I've tried doing that many times. And it has never quite been as complete or efficient as it could be, and I love the way they do theirs. It's very start here, progress through the book in the order that it's presented, and you'll progress through the sheet at the same time. It's great. I love it. So anyway, we're working on districts. Um, we determined that there are a few different districts in Summerstone proper. Summerstone isn't the biggest city in the world. It actually has room to support twice as many people as permanently live there, just because with all the wealth, there's a lot of people that travel, and so they're prepared for major influx. But it's still, by fantasy, medieval era fantasy standards, it's still a pretty big place to be. Like, there aren't usually places that number more than 20 to 40,000 people permanently in a lot of these sorts of settings, because historically that was not normal. Summerstone is right there. It's about 24,000 permanent residents with, I believe we had 4 districts. Yes, we had 4 different districts. We had a scholarly district. They're all in great shape. The city is immaculately maintained as far as infrastructure, leadership, and law enforcement capacity and efficiency. Like, everything about this place is run beautifully. It is a pinnacle of what a good urban area should be, with a couple exceptions that were randomly determined by dice. I would not have given them to this place normally of my own, but the dice said, how about this? And I'm a fan, and so I'm working with it. Like, you'll see crime here says worse, far worse, worse, and equal. No, you won't see that because that's on my sheet. You can't see. Excuse me. But it was determined despite a lot of really good modifiers to make sure that the wealthiest city in the world, with its established very good law enforcement, very good city uh, legislative and infrastructure, everything about it is exemplary for the world. We still somehow manage to roll really low on the level of crime, which is a bad thing. A higher roll on the crime determination table means very little crime. And we rolled that the crime in the city is dangerous. I believe in the book it technically says that there primarily that's just there's a ton of it. I'm taking that to be something different since Summerstone is established to have all of this great stuff and have this reputation. People want to be there. Um, I I'm interpreting that to be it's not necessarily that there's crime runs rampant because with everything else here that I still can't quite justify that. But specifically, the crimes that do take place here are dangerous. It's not like if somebody gets mugged on the street, you're not just going to get threatened at knife point and get your coin purse taken away. You're probably just going to get fucking stabbed and killed or beat within an inch of your life and then have your stuff stolen. Violent breaking and enterings to cover your tracks. That sort of thing. Because, like, detective work is not super common in this sort of world. Your city guards are there to be a deterrent and an immediate response. There's not usually a lot of follow up in solving something like this if the cause isn't known in a medieval era. Summerstone does have that. They have one of the best law enforcement systems in the world. They have actual detectives, or at least people they assign to do that sort of detective work after the fact. But the crimes in Summerstone are just they're not necessarily running rampant, but when they do happen, they are magnified in intensity and scale. A lot of white collar stuff, a lot of death, physical harm, or financial harm. With a lot of money, people can be. The crimes that take place here are more likely to financially ruin a very wealthy and stable household, potentially. So, a big part of that is there is a completely secret organized crime sect in the city. That was randomly determined too, because we had such a low roll on crime. So that is a whole other thing for me to get into. There's a global organized crime network in Evard that I need to do detailing on, and I want to do it on stream sometime probably. I might not because a couple of my players periodically are in here, and one of them is my wife Pez, and she knows about this. She could help me come up with some really cool stuff. But I'm thinking this one that's here is a different one for very different reasons, and especially I have two campaigns that run it on two different uh, timetables essentially for the world. The one that's been running longer, this campaign has been going on for about 7 years. Um, and then the one that's been going on since right before COVID started, so 4 years. Yeah, organized crime. That shit's always fun for me because when I was a kid and like a teenager, I always loved The Godfather. It was one of my favorite movies, and like old noir and mafia films. Something about that was just fascinating to me. So having like a lawful evil sort of person, or even a lawful neutral, but they lean towards being pretty morally indifferent. Um, I always find those to be very compelling characters, especially when, like in The Godfather, they portray Vito Corleone, the Don, as being a protagonist. And Michael Corleone, who by the end of the movie is a very bad person and nobody disputes that, uh, they're still protagonists. The way they do that is great. Um, God, I forgot what I was originally on. This happens a lot when I'm talking Evard. Oh yes, but so there's a different sect, and I think it's specifically for this other campaign that I'm running, because one, that's the one I am kind of working on this for, because they've never been to Summerstone in their campaign. It takes place 320-ish years prior to the longer running one that is what I originally created Evard for. And there are other geopolitical elements going on in this campaign that is about to go to Summerstone that make that organized crime presence a lot more, honestly, I think a lot more interesting. Um, and also, it makes more sense to happen there versus a time when Summerstone was a lot more stable. And I think a lot of that stability came from this point in time where they're about to encounter it with a lot of really bad crime rates and a lot of organized, completely secret organized crime that's going to cause problems that 300 years later they're like, we need to really stay on top of shit so that doesn't happen again. So that's where we are with crime. Anyway, going down to our districts. We have scholarly district, slums, another scholarly district, and market. I like the scholarly districts because the rival city to this is the capital of their historic enemy that they were in a 6,000-year war with, and they have the arcane academy of the world that everybody, if you want to learn magic, or even if you were like a sorcerer, you were born with magic, but you want to refine it and understand how it works, you go to the Royal Arcane Academy of Neris versus this country doesn't like magic. Almost any form of magic they distrust. It's not necessarily illegal, but that's just it's a big cultural thing. So having these other two scholarly districts in the wealthiest city in the world to rival their historic enemy, I think, is a lot of fun. And they're all in the best condition they can be as far as the state of everything. Uh, one of the entrances is, or one of the scholarly districts is lightly guarded, so you do need a little bit of permit. You need a reason to be there, and you will be checked going in. The market is open. It looks like we didn't necessarily. Oh no, scholar slums, both scholarly districts and the slums are both. All three are lightly guarded, so you kind of need a reason. The market, there's been some fun rolls about how the market works in a city in general with this system. More details than I would have thought of, like traveling merchants that are in the city, not your locals who have like a permanent shop that they usually live in or above, but like the people who travel and just set up in the center square. What's the process for them? Like, do they have to pay fees? Is it a permit? Is it first come first serve? So that was cool. That's the thing I appreciate about this. But crime is worse in a lot of these places, specifically because of the established dangerous crime that we have. So like the scholarly section, the dangerous crimes that take place there, pretty rough. The slums are the worst. You might imagine that. And the slums fit better too for this period in time than the more recent one. The other scholarly district is this, they're about the same, but the market is pretty fair. It's not a particularly crime ridden place. And I see that as picking on the wealthy people, the teachers, the folks with knowledge, or specifically students. Because if you can afford to send your kid into Summerstone for education, if you are not local, that's going to be incredibly expensive. So I think a lot of the crime is going to be preying on students, ransoms, just straight up mugging them for money, that sort of stuff that's going to be pretty vicious. It's not just going to be simple stuff. And that's as far as we got before I started feeling under the weather. So let's see where we can go. Fun fact, if you are in chat, you can help me with making rolls. I got that fixed and integrated. So when it comes time to roll on one of these tables, if you wish, you can go ahead and input exclamation point roll D and then whatever the size that we need. So a D10, a D20, I will tell you. And if we have multiple people going in for that, if it's just a couple, I'm going to take the first one. If there's more people coming in now or in future streams of this sort of stuff, I'm going to figure out how to run a queue because you can do like a queue roster with commands so that it'll track who's next in line and put who just went at the very end and cycle in. But that's a different problem for a different day. So what we're working on now um, is, let's see, housing. Okay. Yeah, because that's the next thing on there is not a thing we necessarily need to worry about. So, actually, let me see if I can make it work with a split screen because honestly, having to go back and forth between tabs, you guys probably don't see it, but for me it's kind of a hassle. So let's see how this goes instead. Um, okay, housing. Do many people live in this district and how many? Okay, because I don't imagine that all of Summerstone is encapsulated into these four districts and that's all there is. Like I imagine there's a lot of uh, middle ground and buffer space between them that's like a lot of your permanent residences, your permanent businesses that aren't pertaining to, since we don't have like an industrial district, your stuff like blacksmiths, tanneries, rope makers, all that good stuff is going to have to be somewhere else. Because that's not going to be the market. The market is just where people sell their shit. Um, so, how many people live in each one? So uh, we can work with that. So, if anybody's there in chat, and if you're lurking, please don't feel like you need to come back and roll these. But I want to give you guys the chance. I could use a D12, please, while I take a drink. So go ahead and just input exclamation point, roll D, and then 1, 2. And that'll roll us, and we'll see what we get. And if not, I have a dice roller that you guys can actually see the result with me. So, a 3 from Rad. Okay, so for District 1, our scholarly district, our first one, no one lives here. Okay. All right. Rad, I could use another one. We're gonna need 4 of them, or 3 more total, at least for now. If you wanted to roll all of them, go ahead. If somebody else hops in, I might give them a preference over one of yours, just to kind of override and include everybody. But for now, go for it. We got 3 more we need. So the next one will be for slums. Man, I hope all my bad rolls are used up today. I have a session tomorrow. Okay, cool. Thanks, Rad. I appreciate it. I will soak up your bad luck so you get good dice rolls tomorrow. Let's do it. I am happy to be that person. It'll make things interesting for my players about to go to Summerstone on Friday. Another 3. Nobody lives in the slums. We have to re-roll. That is the verdict on nobody living here. If it's slums or upper class, we have to re-roll. So we'll count the next roll as being the re-roll. We'll resolve these chronologically. Numerically. There's no chronology involved. Alright. So whenever you're ready, Rad, roll again. I know you have a delay. So no worries. I don't mind that. Gives me a chance to read up on a couple other things. Oh, you have to wait. Uh-oh. That's a setting I can probably change. So let me work on changing that. Okay. A 4. Okay, that's another reroll. Because it's a 1 to 5. Maybe I should roll. No, Rad, get it out of your system. Come on, we're soaking up all your bad rolls here. Go ahead and get them out. Okay. Okay, advanced settings. Let me. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to go through and do this for all of these commands one by one, so bear with me. What are we rolling for, Della? We're rolling to see how many people live in each district. Just based on like none, a few, a couple, or like way too many. The table on the screen is the one we're working with. A 9. Okay. Okay, so we can do 9. What are we looking at with 9? A 9 is going to be limited. Only a few people live here. Maybe predominantly a place of business or functionality, or perhaps people avoid living here for another less innocent reason. Well, this is the slums that we're rolling for, so I imagine people don't want to be living there. Okay. Which tracks? 9 is a great number in my book, Rad. So I appreciate that being your number that gets you out of the bad luck. So Della, if you wanted to hop in and roll, we could use another 2. And I think these other 2 don't have a result that would need re-rolled. So we should just need 2 more rolls. So Della or Rad, either one. Go for it. Whoever rolls first, that's the one I take. As I continue to fix these cooldowns. Okay, Della has rolled a 2. All right, so our other scholarly district, nobody lives here. Okay, cool. Which I do find to be interesting, though, because if this is an educational place, like there's a university, academy, institution, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I haven't made that up for the city yet. That might be a thing I don't do with the system, and we just do it off stream. But if there's nobody living there, I take that to mean not only are there no locals, like everybody lives out in the city, including the students. So if you have people, wealthy people who send their kids to study in Summerstone, you're not going to have like a dormitory in the district. So I think they're going to be living outside of the actual building, which honestly for me makes more sense for this particular place. And also, there's probably student housing somewhere else in the city or other places for it, but it's not going to be on the school grounds. So I imagine this district is probably going to be kind of small, both of them. You're only here to learn. Everyone had to live off campus. Pretty much, yeah. That's what I imagine. Okay, so we need one more. One more housing roll, please, and we will move on. A 4. Okay. Also in the market district. Nobody lives there, so I really do like this though. That might seem, I don't know, it might seem weird to you guys that it's like the lowest possible option for all of these. I came in and got these rolls. Rad passed it off. That Della, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to transfer Rad's bad rolls away from her so that when she plays tomorrow night, she's golden. She's got nothing but good rolls ahead. Um, but no, I like this especially because, like I said, I imagine for this place there being filler between the districts, so it's not like it's just these 4 quadrants. Like this requires that. There's so many. There's 24,000 people that live here, and a very small amount of them live in the slums. The rest of them are going to be like upper middle class or wealthy people that live in these buffer zones in the city. Oh, I came in, but I don't have dice to threaten. Oh, that's true, Della. I mean, that doesn't. You could threaten. I don't know. You could threaten somebody else's dice. I'm not necessarily saying threaten mine or Rad's, but like you could threaten someone's. Threaten Pez's if you really want to. Actually, don't do that. She's had some really bad luck on rolls for the last multiple sessions in this campaign that we're making this city for. Oh my God, they went on a wilderness expedition, and her character was not a climber, and they were in mountain wilderness, and it was like literally day one. That character caused a catastrophe that um, killed their pack animals day one and made most of their supplies unrecoverable and hurt multiple people. They had a cleric, so they healed up pretty quick. But her character had a lot of problems navigating that area when they had to deal with terrain. And she kept rolling very bad rolls for all of them. Whose no one will ever know. Words are dumb. English is a terrible language. I've been listening to my linguistics courses that have gotten me really jazzed about creating the languages of Evard. Even if I don't actually go into detail with most of them, like I want to know the basic functions of what makes them unique and fun, because I find that fun to do. Um, but listening and studying linguistics just reinforces to me how fucking terribly stupid English is as a language, both written and spoken. It's just it's dumb and I hate it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's my first language because if I had to learn it not as my first language and not as a child, atrocious. It's oh, God, that's a rant I'm going to stop being on. But I think dice cooldowns should be fixed, so hopefully that's not a thing we have to deal with anymore. I need to get my dice thing pulled up though, in case I need to roll, but I don't necessarily remember the name of the thing that I need to pull up. Sorry, bear with me. But we'll get on. The next thing we need to figure out, I believe, are notable locations in our districts. So that'll be kind of fun to figure out, especially since virtually nobody lives in these little isolated sections of town where you only go in there. You don't ever stay there. By the way, I really like and appreciate the super chill music in the background. I love listening to that type of stuff. I do too, Della. I do too. Yeah, it's just a royalty-free, fantasy, relaxing playlist that I found. So if you want, I can send you the link. I could put it in chat. I might as well. Let's put it in chat, just in case anybody wants to replicate this. It is Epidemic Sound is the website, but specifically this will be the playlist that we are listening to. And I intend to have some sort of chill fantasy-esque, specifically royalty-free music like this for any sort of these world-building sessions that we have. I think it adds a nice touch. It always helps me kind of stay on task a little bit, as hard as that may be to believe. It would be far worse if I had no music. And it just kind of sparks the creative parts of my brain like I know it does for a lot of other people. So yeah, that's a thing. Even if I mix it up now and then, that is a thing I'm going to work on. Where's... Alright, bear with me here. I need to... Nope. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. I need to go to my history. That's not it. Alright, sorry. I gotta look this up. Because it's, unfortunately and fortunately, it's an in-browser service to control the dice I roll on the stream that you guys can see. So I need to bookmark it, and I forgot to do that. And Pez and I, we don't usually watch TV series a lot. We mostly just watch YouTube. So I have a lot of pages in my history to sort through that are just different YouTube videos we've watched. Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. That's not quite it. Come on, you bastard. I know you're here somewhere. That's what it is. That's the name. Cool. Okay, cool. And bookmark it. Log in so that it remembers my settings. And there's some more cool kind of setup stuff I can do with this website. It's just the instructions on it aren't the most efficient. So I can't always do it. But I have this sorted. We're good. Thank you for indulging my self-distractions. Okay, it's just soft enough to get you in the fantasy mood, but doesn't interrupt stream either because it's so soft. Good. Since it's just red and you can fuss with it and change things that you want to, so it's more easily accessible later. That's what I'm trying to do. But also I like to, just in case people are on VODs or whatever, if my viewer count tracker, I think Twitch has it where it's always a couple minutes behind whether somebody hops in or leaves. So I try to assume that there's somebody there paying attention, and so I try to minimize having to putz with stuff too much while people are there, unless I like do it over a break, which usually is not enough time for me. But anyway, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate you not caring, both of you, that this is a thing I regularly have to do. Okay, so anyway, notable locations. Even the worst areas have places worth visiting that draw traffic or at least are noteworthy. In the individual district sections, you'll roll for additional locations. Yeah, because there are this PDF sheet that I'm filling out that you're not seeing. I'm easy to work around. I do appreciate that, Rad. That has been very much my experience working with you for game stuff, for stream stuff, for gaming on stream with me for our text-based RP stuff. Like, I appreciate all y'all's flexibility. But so the PDF sheet I'm working on to go through this, there is an entire separate section and sheet also in the book corresponding just for fleshing out these districts uniquely. And I probably won't do that on stream unless you guys really want to see it. Especially because these ones I feel like they could potentially be really interesting with these setups we have of nobody lives there, but somehow crime's still really bad. But I might not. Also depends on how much we get done before I need this, if I end up needing this on Friday, because that's whenever that group plays next is when I need this done. So I should keep moving. But either way, we'll get to other cities if we continue doing this sort of stuff on stream. We'll get to cities of this size or bigger that I do want to do that to and explore specifically the district level of detail. But for now, how many notable locations do we have in each area? Okay, so that's a D10. So if I could get a D10 4 times, if y'all want to take turns, if you want me to roll so that you don't have to be constantly typing in dice commands, whatever you want, I'm here for. But I want to make sure if you want to be involved and help shape this stuff, you guys get the chance before I do. I've done enough shaping here. A D10. So our scholarly district has one notable location. Okay. That's our first scholarly district. I'm going to have to figure out what's different about them, but right now on the sheet they are identical. um, okay, so we need a couple more. I hope it's still not giving you long cooldowns, because I went through and I think I changed it to where there shouldn't be a global or a user cooldown for dice rolling at all. So hopefully in the future that doesn't become an issue later. If I suddenly have, 15 people watching and all wanting to roll dice at the same time. So let's see. I'm gonna skip ahead while I wait for delay to catch up to see if anybody wants to roll. Otherwise, I will, but I'm gonna skip ahead here for a second. Don't mind me while I look away. The third and fourth results on the table state up to the first blank rolled additional locations. Because it's possible that a district has fewer additional locations than the known. Okay. If I roll a 10, it allows for up to the first 3 additional locations in the district to be notable. However, if your district is very small, you may only have 1 rolled in that district. In that case, simply make that 1 additional location notable. Yeah, that's some of the verbiage of some of their other stuff. All right, the slums have 2 notable locations in them. Okay, interesting. Scholar District Numero Dos. Rad smack stream elements. Do it, Rad. Kick stream elements in the butt. Or somewhere else if it proves more fruitful. But yeah, so that's based on that whole up to thing. If I remember right, so I haven't actually used this system for any other place this big, so dealing with like districts and stuff is a lot more convoluted than doing a trading post or a village. Those are the 2 smallest. Della, you can take the next 2 rolls. Okay, all right. If you want to, Della, otherwise I can roll. But I'm pretty sure that some of this is just referring to a lot of the modifiers that certain things give based on size or effectiveness and how they affect other things, which I love about this system, that they incorporate everything like that. Like, hey, the city wealth comparing to crime and poverty levels, like they're all interconnected, all that sort of stuff. But occasionally for something on this scale, especially since this has been broken up between 3 different sessions building this one city, I tend to lose some of that and kind of forget the flow of all of it. So the more we do this, the better I'll get at it. But past the point, I probably won't need to use all of the tables before my eyes. I'll probably just remember some of them. Okay. I think Rad, I'll go ahead and roll one. Della might be indisposed for a second. So, wait a minute. Oh, I don't like that. Why did you... Huh. Okay, I don't like that. It didn't remember my things, but that's okay. So we need a D10 this time. Let's see what we get. A 7. Okay, so our other scholarly district has 2 notable locations. And then Rad, by now, hopefully you'll be able to put one in, and that can be our last one. And then district notes. Oh. An 8. All right, so our market has 2, which, I mean, only having 2 and not the max of up to 3, that tracks for me, though, since this isn't the biggest urban size that it could be, since it's technically only like a middling sized town by what the system can create. Okay, so that might be it for now for district stuff. We might be able to move on. All right, so we have district terms. District contains included locations, additional information. Okay, general area, areas of the city that are centered around a particular focus. There's always space that's not part of a specific district that can be considered the general area. Thank you. That's what what I was talking about earlier. If there's something you really need or want in the city but have not rolled it, you can always just say it's general area. Okay, location details. You may roll or have included a magic shop, service, or hired help. After the individual district section, you will find the following tables you can roll on if required. Okay, so we've got some other stuff to figure out, I suppose. All right, individual districts. Okay, so yeah, here we are. Type, let me, my sheet has a lot of stuff, so let me get this updated real quick. I'm not sure I typed that right, but I don't really care. Okay, so, oh my gosh. Yeah, so we're really fleshing this out. So this is a medium city. That means 3 rolls per district on what sort of stuff is actually in there. Because my PDF sheet has a list of things that's pretty decent. Like it can list up to 6 spots per individual district. So let's go ahead and get into that. All right, so if you roll more than one location, treat it as another location. All right, so these different districts, you guys can't quite see it, but so these are all the different kind of districts we could have gotten, and they each have their own set of stuff to roll that might be in there, which I appreciate because you're less likely to get something super weird like a cemetery in, the scholarly section, or like a fine art gallery in the industrial district. So it's a little more contained like that. So we need to skip ahead a little bit. We're gonna jump pages. Sorry if the scrolling gets fast and weird. Okay, Scholar District, a D20. All right. Included locations. So, included locations are they don't count. They're just assumed to be in this district already. Like we have archives, library. And they're not gilded. That's a thing for me to note if it's like a market section. So if we want to go ahead and start rolling D20s, I am going to need, shit, what was it? I just looked at it. I think 3. Yes, 3 D20 rolls for each of our districts because the city is medium in size. But included, we have archives, library, an academy or university. That's not how you spell academy. Not even, oh god, Ulf. Not even close. Della, it's happening here too. / university. Forum and a schoolhouse. Okay. Cool. So those are all just included with the district, and then we're determining other stuff. Oh no, wait, I did that backwards. Included locations. Yeah, I put those in the wrong sections on my sheet, and that would be not ideal. Let's see. Okay, if Rad is indisposed, I know Rad's at work, so I'll go ahead and roll. We'll get at least 1d20 started. 1d20. All right, what do we got? What do we got? That is a 17. Okay, 17. A forum, non-commercial. Okay, and we can have another one of those, as far as I'm aware. I don't see why not. There are no shops implied. Services are hired help and clerk. Notable location reasons. Okay, sorry, getting a little confused about my own thing. Additional locations. So we have another forum. Okay. Is there a section for... No, there's not. Okay. It's... Okay. I can come back and find that if I actually need to. So that's another forum. We'll roll again. This time a 3. Okay, what's 3 get us? A Tailor. Okay, I can work with a tailor. So at the top here, at the top of the table, where it says shops none, that doesn't mean there can't be. There just aren't any assumed to be present by default in this sort of uh, city district. So we have a tailor. That tracks. I can believe that, especially if they're schools of uniforms, which I doubt for Garland, but maybe. It does have a strong military history. Tailor. Is it a guild? Do we want to make it a guild? Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry for the delay. My dog suddenly started barking, and that's not a thing she does. Um, so I needed to see what that was about. We got a package that arrived, and normally they don't knock on the door when that happens, but this time they did, so had to go grab that. But what did we say? A tailor. Are they gilded? Yeah, I feel like a guild would probably be the case. Notable location reasons. I mean, this place is super wealthy, a center of commerce. If there's a shop like that, there's probably going to be a guild that manages all the tailor shops in the city. That would be my thought, at least. Okay, we need another one. Yeah, I'll go ahead and roll. But if anybody wants to, go ahead and roll when you can, and I will superimpose that over mine. 19. Oh, Rad, I'm sorry. I'm rolling kind of high, and I think I might have stumbled onto your luck and good rolls. I'm sorry. Uh, Gathering Hall, non-commercial. Okay, the Gathering Hall makes sense. Like have sort of almost like an auditorium attached to like a high school or a college, for productions. Tis all right. Okay, I appreciate it, Rad. I'm glad you're not mad at me for accidentally stealing your good dice rolls. I know you wouldn't be, but still. Okay, so a gathering hall, which let's be honest, it's Garland. That'd be a mead hall. Think like Beowulf style mead hall. That's exactly what we're looking at. But it'd be for students instead of warriors, which would be fun. When in doubt, polymorph into a giant ape. Uh, Normally, Rad, I'd say yes, but if you do that in Garland, there's going to be some issues. Like the bigger cities, it's not usually a big deal. Usually the guards will just be like, hey, knock it off. But it's not illegal to do. But people are going to hear about it. But if you're in a smaller town or a village in rural Garland and you pull something like that, they will run you out of town at Spear Point. Uh, one of one of our PCs in the longer campaign was from a small village in Garland, and that's exactly what his backstory was. Was he was a shadow blood sorcerer, and he tried to hide his magic for years and years. Um, and his whole thing was he was a cook, and he was a really good cook. Um, Particularly because if he wanted to, he could just use magic to cover the flavor of certain foods, especially like a basic spell in II.V lets you change the flavor of something, and you can do that as many times a day as you want. And so he kind of discovered he could do that, and they found out that he was using magic, and so they just took him and ran him out of town, and he couldn't go back to Garland ever since. Up until, minor spoiler alert, that character died. He died in a pretty big scale military conflict. Um, but of four PCs that went into that conflict, he is the one that didn't make it out. So that particular place in the world now has a statue of those four PCs, including him. Um, so it was a very fun character. So don't normally I'm all for polymorphing especially into giant apes. I fucking love apes. If you haven't watched me play Planet Zoo or talk about King Kong, I love apes. They're some of my favorite animals. Don't do it in Gareland. Please don't do it in Gareland. I don't want to have to do that to you. Okay, I need another D20. Oh gosh. One more D20 to figure out what else is in our first scholarly district. That's an 18. What's 18 this time? Another schoolhouse. Okay, so a shitload of schools. Okay, which makes sense. I mean, it's a scholarly district, but I imagine a schoolhouse, like it's assumed that there's a schoolhouse and an academy slash university. Um, so I imagine that these are more like elementary schools where you learn your basics, where most citizens would get what we would consider a basic education, but in a fantasy medieval setting, that's probably more than most people in a rural setting will ever get. So I imagine that's kind of what it is. These are more or less like K through 12 is a schoolhouse. So having a few of those, I could even see with Summerstone maybe having a residence only like schoolhouse and a residence only, or like a out of towner, people paid a lot of money to send their kids here school. Maybe that's why there's two districts. Ooh, I like that. I like that. There's two districts, one for residents, one for out of towners. That's every level of schooling. Either that or maybe like a military academy is one of them. Since Summerstone is a place of military presence historically and presently, I could see that too. Like, still based in general education, but with an emphasis on like tactics and strategy and history and all that good stuff. The closest thing that anywhere in the world probably would have to a West Point. It would make sense to me very much for Evard to have that sort of place be here, not even in Gareland's national capital, but here. Uh, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Okay, okay, so that's going to be a military emphasis. And that might be another reason why crime is higher here, because what if it's some of it's just the students, like practicing their training or whatever when they're not supposed to be, or picking on each other because it's a more martial culture to begin with. So some of it might just be bullying at an extreme, which is like it's unfortunate, and I won't portray that very like I would never portray that in a game to the extent that it would potentially like trigger somebody that's had that problem in real life. I would try and clear that with all my players so I know not to do that ahead of time. But it's still a thing to just kind of know based on what happens in real urban areas. Um, because I mean, it's one of the things with the world building that was a decision I made years ago that I still kind of question myself on is what sorts of real life problems do I want to represent in my world? Because certain problems you want to play these sorts of games or video games in general or whatever in order to get away from those sorts of things you deal with in real life. Um, so, like, at what point can those sorts of conflicts that make for good story if done right, but still very sensitive subject matter for a lot of people? Where do you draw the line? What would be more likely to be less uh, less impactful as far as hard stuff? So like, there's some stuff in there that I know people probably, for some people, would probably be a really big deal. Like in my world, slavery is a thing. It's very much a thing that I have shown I, as a person, and my stance on it. And there has been a lot of story and campaign elements of undoing that particular industry that have been, I think, some of the players' best moments. But without including it there at all, a lot of the great defining moments of these stories wouldn't happen. But it's still a thing. Like, should I include that in the world at all? Because I think a lot of people who run these sorts of games or come up with these sorts of worlds would say no, because that's such a sensitive issue. And I do it knowing that and hoping that people can understand the mindset behind it, that it's not doing it to support it, it's specifically doing it to oppose it and to show what I think should be done about it. Uh, which, in the case of this campaign, I wasn't a player, but I enabled them to do pretty much the same thing I would have done, which they destroyed the slave trading capital of the world. And they did it spectacularly. Some of their best moments. But I'm digressing, and we have a lot of stuff to do. So, okay, so that is our first scholarly district. Now we have slums. If anybody's there, I need 3d20s rolled. I will go ahead and roll 3d20s on my own, but if you want to influence it, go ahead and roll, and I will put them in order over mine. So if I roll my 3 first and one of yours comes through, I'll put yours over number 1, and we'll just continue that way for the rest of this whole deal. Alright, so the slums... Oh, never mind. Oh, Red, I don't have a command for doing multiples, I'm sorry. Here, we're going to be doing this though, so I can. Let me input that real quick. That will not take long at all. That would make a lot more sense. Because I have to put in the specific command of roll 1d10, roll 1d100, and it's not like a family I can cluster together. So I was like, I don't know how many times I'm going to need to roll all of these variant amounts of these dice, but I can do that. That is no problem whatsoever. Okay. Oh, never mind. I'm not sure if I know how to do that as a command text, because I'm not a coder. Yeah, I'm sorry, Red. I'm not sure I know how to do that right now on stream. Just because I don't know how to take the variable component of the number generated and multiply that by do this 3 times, because we could do between 1 and 60, but then there's no chance of getting a 1 or a 2. Or like I guess with that way there still is. It's not if it's on dice. So, yeah. Well, I guess, no, because if you're rolling 3d20, you could never get a 1 or a 2. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. If you could roll 1d20, I'll work and I can ramble, or I'll go ahead and roll my own. Did I actually roll that last one? I didn't even see what it was. So I can't see the history as well because it doesn't overlay on my screen when the dice rolls. Okay, so we have a 5, and I can't see the list on here. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, I'm late. What are we up to? Calvin, we are finding out the notable locations in our 4 different districts of the city. Yes, if you could roll a d20 if you want to help participate in shaping things. Just the command is !roll d20. Despite my best efforts, apparently there's still a cooldown on it. I tried for there not to be. But to start, Rad gave us a 5. So what is a 5 in our slums district? There is a smithy. Hey, the slums have a smithy. Look at that. Okay, let me find the included locations first. None. There's a butcher shop by default. I'm going to say that's not gilded because that's a thing on my sheet. Services, a house of leisure. That's what they call it in this book, which I think they have. It could be, the innuendo of what a house of leisure would probably be assumed to be. But I think this book also treats it as it could be like a gambling hall, or something that's a little more what we would consider maybe socially scandalous without being just like it's a bar, but maybe one other thing. Like it's supposed to be its own thing. But so that is present. That is not the place to type that either. Come on, Ulf. But yes, Calvin, it's good to see you. Better late than never. And even if you're late, I would happily catch you up on whatever was worth catching up on. Unfortunately, I do what I do, and I've been rambling a lot. So, Butcher, not gilded. House of Leisure. And I think a House of Leisure could also be like in an upper end district, could be like a smoking club or, whatever. Like, not in the sense of like a strip club, but like a gentleman's club where it's elite members only. I think that can also be considered a House of Leisure. But this is a slums district, so I can imagine what kind of place it might be. Um, Honestly, this place is all about money. I could see it being a gambling hall. I'm gonna make a note of that because I'm not saying there isn't sex work in Evard because there absolutely is. Particularly um, in most places, it's legitimate and open and respected. Um, just because that's my personal stance on it. I think it should be. Um, but with just how much money is traded in Summerstone, it makes more sense to me that it'd be a gambling hall, and that's sort of the underground component of this place that runs such a tight ship. There is somewhere within the town where money flows, but it's not structured, and it is not necessarily free market. But yes, so Calvin, it looks like the command, if you had wanted to roll a die, did not quite go through. Um, So I'm going to go ahead and roll, but if you want to try again, I know you're probably on a cooldown because I can't fix it. But just in case it is exclamation point, roll D20. All one thing smushed together, no caps. There we go, we got an 18. Perfect. All right, what is 18 for us today? Oh, we're still looking at Scholar. My bad. You guys are looking at the wrong table. Because my hard copy, it's just the next page over. I don't have to flip. An 18 is a soothsayer. Oh, remember what I said about Garland not liking most forms of magic? I've always known that there are one or two specific niche kinds of magic that they're not necessarily opposed to, but they're still kind of skin crawly about it. Because like gods, Garland is a very religious place. II.V acknowledges the real life historic Norse pantheon as an optional god set. That is applied whole heart to Garland because it's inspired by that historic real life culture. And so soothsayers were a thing. But at most of Evard, and the way I figure religion and divine based magic, like a cleric or a paladin, is I don't think in my particular fantasy world, I don't think atheism is very common, specifically because when you have people walking around that can do spells specifically because a god lets them, and there's like a lot of historic record to prove that's what it is, I feel like it's kind of hard to be like, no, nothing's out there and nothing exists. But I feel like in more cases it would be just like a broad agnosticism or a skepticism of the god's intentions. So there's probably a word for that that I can't think of, but it's like, no, believing the gods exist, but I don't trust them whatsoever, not a single damn one of them. I feel like that's a lot more common in this particular world. Um, I don't get me wrong, there definitely are holdouts that go, no, none of the gods are real, but I feel like they'd be pretty few and far between since there's so much stuff. Hi, Hoban. That is indisputable magic and intervention from so many different deities in a fantasy world. Hi, buddy. I'm sorry. Here, let me get you on cam because people like you. People like you. You're likable, believe it or not, despite your best efforts. Yes, religious skepticism, exactly. But so a soothsayer for Garland, I find fun because in old historic, I'm not sure how well that's catching him. There we go. In old historic Norse religion, pre-Christianization in Scandinavia, because of course I'm going to ramble on this for a second, divination was a thing. Um, oh yeah, Rad. He's an absolute gremlin when he's not being like this most of the time. But he's been cute today. He's been very snuggly all day today, which has been great. Um, but divination was a thing. There were particular, specifically women most of the time, uh, that were this was the word for it in Old Norse, were called vulva, and they were essentially soothsayers, fortune tellers, considered to be sorceresses, and magic in historic Norse mythology was traditionally associated with females, specifically the goddess Freya. Even though Odin was a very famous sorcerer, there is a point where I think it's Loki in one of the stories ridicules him for knowing a woman's art. Um, so even like casting the runes, which is a term I'm sure people have probably heard of, uh, that was historically a thing best done by females according to that belief system. Even though males could do it, but there some people held a stigma about it. Some didn't. But so having a soothsayer specifically in the slums of Summerstone in Gareland, I find interesting as a fun little reflection of this, and also just in a culture that doesn't like magic. And it may not have to be magic. It could just be somebody just rolling dice and reading into it with no actual divination done. And I imagine that might well be the case. Uh, but especially if you're surrounded by all this opulence that is Summerstone, history lesson excited. Oh yeah, you'll get those here, especially in this context of world building. Um, if you're surrounded by all this opulence, but you live in the slums, I imagine you're willing to eschew or even outright take the opposite stance on some of the things that the wealthy people believe because you are the opposite. Like, fuck them and what they have. I resent them. I'm too poor to go anywhere, but I can't do anything much here in this town. So, like, maybe I will honestly kind of be open minded to other beliefs out of spite. Um, so maybe some of the slums is a little bit more arcane tolerant than a lot of the right proper policed city is. So I like that a lot. I think I'm going to keep that. And then I will need one more d20 if somebody wants to roll. But as always, I'm happy to do it myself. But I want y'all to be able to do it. Actually, I need two. I'll need two more d20s. I forgot that was our first one. Right? Oh no, a smithy. I just forgot to make a note of it. So only one. But we'll need quite a few more d20s. So go ham. A 6. Okay, that's a Thatcher. That makes perfect sense. So smithy, not gilded. We have a... That's the wrong thing. Come on. Come on, keyboard. Soothsayer and a Thatcher. I imagine the Thatcher is... No, not in the slums. There wouldn't be a guild in the slums. A 15. Okay, so that's going to go back to our previous district, or I guess our next district, which is the same one we had before. So it's the other scholarly district. So we'll go ahead and go with it. I'm assuming y'all know, but in case you don't, a thatcher, as far as this time period is concerned, is the person who like makes thatch for specifically roofing usually. So think like an affordable roofing company. That's pretty much what a thatcher is. Because like think like arc thatch is the first level of building you can make before wood or stone. That's kind of what it is, and especially that works for Gareland because that's how most Nordic homes were roofed, was thatch or wood. But usually thatch was, depending on where you were, I guess, was a lot more affordable in a lot of places. Okay, and then a 15 back in our scholar district. I'll make note of the included locations because they're the same as the other one. So I'll make a note of those later. 15, we have another archives and library. So there's one of those by default here. But nothing says we can't have another one. Like the first scholarly district had a second schoolhouse and a second forum. But who's to say there's not, more records? Hi, Hoban. I'm sorry, buddy. Give me a second. Okay. I'm loving the funky tunes. Yeah, this, I put, I'm not sure, I can't remember how chat works if you can see what was in chat before you came in, Calvin, but the link is in chat. If you ever want to find this playlist, it's all royalty-free, fantasy and chill playlist. So, yeah, I could use another 2. Huh. I had us roll one too many times for the first scholarly district. Oops. I'll probably nix one of those, or I could scoot it down to this one. Yeah, actually, let's do that. If somebody... Okay. If nothing else, Calvin, I know in the VODs you can see chat pop up live. If you go back and watch that. My clown frown was killed by automatic emojis. Oh no. Or well, you know what? Let me just put it in chat for you. Like nothing says I can't do it again. If you ever want to listen to it for writing or world building stuff. So there you go. Yeah. No need to check the VOD. I can spam chat with links because it's my goddamn channel. Streamlabs can't get pissed at me. I'm its boss. But yes, if somebody could do me a favor and roll a D4. I have 4 additional locations in our first scholar district. We're only supposed to have 3. So I want to see which one I'm going to transfer over to this one that we're in now. And then I'll need another D20. So I'll give y'all a second for lag to catch up to see if anybody wants to roll it. Otherwise, I happily will. Yeah, look at this happy bean boy. I know you're seeing the back of his noggin, but trust me, he's doing the happy face. Yeah, I know I leave every day, don't I? And that's not normal. It's almost done, though. It's almost done. All right, Rad rolled a 3. So what's getting scooted? The gathering hall, the mead hall. Okay. Hoban. Thank you. Okay, cool. And then I'll need one more D20, but I'll need a second to sort that out. And I'm just going to leave that there. Formatting be damned. Yeah, you're upset because I wasn't petting you the right way. Yeah. He really likes getting pet on the edge of his nose, so you get just a little bit of the moisture from his breathing, and then you pet between his eyes and up over his head like this, so it's like he's getting licked. He really likes that. It took us a long time to figure that out. We'd be petting him, and he'd do the angry, that's not the pets I want bites, and we're like, dude, what the hell? Chill out. I thought you were cuddly. We figured out this is his favorite form of being cuddly. Yeah, he being sweet. Okay. Since Streamlabs is being dumb about delays, I'm going to go ahead and roll. Have you tried the toothbrush thing with him? He's not as keen on that. I think he likes the fact that he can smell the person and it feels like warm and soft and it feels like skin. Because we've tried it a couple times. I mean, he's okay with it. He still likes it, but he definitely seems to like it better when it's actually your hand. He just seems to be able to tell. Like, I'm not a cat person. Hoban is the first cat that I've ever had. I grew up most of my life not really liking cats, but after our previous dog died, I didn't want to be. I was ready for an animal in the house. I just wasn't ready for a dog because she died very suddenly and unexpectedly. And so I said, okay, well, maybe we can get a cat. I'm open to the idea. Maybe we'll go look around the local big city and see what they might have up for adoption. And we met a couple cats up for adoption, and then Pez had to go to work, and I kept looking, and I went and met him. And as soon as he got out of his little cage, Hoban Quake. As soon as he got out of his little cage, I always feel weird saying that, but I mean that's what it is at an adoption center. As soon as he got out, he jumped right up on my lap. I was on a folding chair. He just jumped right up on my lap and started cuddling and purring. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is too sweet. This is a cat I can like, and he's been with us ever since. That was, gosh, how long have you been with us, Hoban? 4 years ago? Gosh, something like that. I want to say it was the beginning of 2019, maybe 2018. 3 or 4 years, yeah. Okay, but anyway, I rolled a 15, and I think we have already seen that one. 15 is another archives and library. Yeah, we'll go with it, though. I can make it work. Maybe instead of 2, it's just one really big-ass library. Ugh. Hoban Quake shifts the camera, always. Okay, so that's that, and then it's time for the market. The market's going to be the fun one that really stands out. Kind of the lifeblood of Summerstone in its commerce, reputation, and nature. So let's roll a couple more D20s. I think hopefully the cooldown should be done for pretty much everyone, so I'm going to go ahead and roll 1 if y'all still want to. The order they come in is the order I'll take them, and if we get 3, I'll just eliminate mine. Or if 3 people roll in chat, I'll get rid of mine. That's a 16, though. What is that for a market district? Hey, another soothsayer. So not just in the slums. That is a thing people can do legitimately. Okay, Calvin rolled a 3. Okay. What is a 3 for a market district? That is a weaver. That is absolutely going to be a guild. 120% gilded. Okay, and I think other folks might be indisposed, so I'm going to go ahead and roll the third one. 8 is Rare Botanicals Shop, and I completely 100% agree with that. Okay, Rare Botanical Shop. And that's not how you spell shop, Wolf. Come on, bud. Included locations. What's in the market? There's a baker. There's a butcher. There's a general store. There's a smithy. There's a tailor. Okay, so perfect. And then that's it for our district information, I think, that we need. So, after that, hold on. Okay, so there's a thing in here that's just explaining the results on here. So if we scroll down in this book PDF, it just goes by and explains here. Let me zoom out just a tiny bit. So just the services of what all these mean, in case you get a term you don't know. Hired help size, that's a whole thing in here, where hired help available that people can come hire, and how big they are, like a guild or a team or a single specialist. According to the district's notable locate. Wait a minute, hold on. I might have missed something. Yeah, I really might have missed something. Because this this whole thing about notability, I don't remember. It's roll on the table below for any district's additional locations that are deemed notable. And I don't remember how that ties in. Oh, I guess I just figure, oh, it's just why they're notable. So, got it. I have that for notable location reasons. Okay, so yeah, more d20s to figure out why these things are so considerable. So, like, it's not like the soothsayer in the market is the only soothsayer in the market, but just they are the most prominent one that people have heard of. Why is that? Okay, so I'm going to rapid fire some rolls here real quick. So bear with me. If you want to throw in some d20s between cooldowns while you can, by all means, please do so. But I am just going to go fast because we're going to need to do quite a few of these. Okay, so that's a 7. Okay. I need to lay out my windows better. Okay, Calvin got a 13. And I'll come back to these and review what they actually mean for these different places here in just a little bit. Okay, so there we go. That should work a little better for me if I can, as long as I can read what I got. I think that might be a 2. Yeah, I have a delay now because I have to look at it on mine. It's too small, but it'll help this go a little faster still. So that's a 2. Okay, we need another one. Again, Calvin, by all means, jump in as often as it'll let you. I think that's an 8 or a 9. That's a 9er. A 15. 15. Oh, that die didn't even roll. It just bounced and died. It's like the beanbags in Phasmophobia after the update. An 8. I feel like we saw 8 somewhere. Oh no, that was before. Okay. I can't tell what that is. 14 maybe? 14. See, my eyes aren't completely worthless. Alright, so this sort of Spitfire I kind of like, because then we're going to have to go back and see and justify these things way after the fact. So like right now, I can't think about it. Um, but we'll get some fun surprises, I think, going back, because I don't know what's on this table. I have no inkling of what these numbers are going to mean. Okay, so there's another 9 and then a 14 from Calvin. Okay, we need 2 more, so I'll do 1 more, and then Calvin, if you wanna bring up the end, I'll start looking at what these explanations are. And that one is a 15. I feel like we saw that one too. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. That's why. I'm reading my sheet wrong. That's entirely why. Okay. Uh, okay, so I see. I get it. I might have kind of goofed, but I can fix that after the fact. Okay, I just forgot where to see some of this stuff. Like, district, I think district size was a thing. Um, okay, and then Calvin wrapped us up with a 6. Okay, so yeah, I might have to come back and fudge some of these things because I think we were supposed to have a different number of how many additional locations we have, and I don't remember where to get that number because I had us do 3 each. I don't think that was supposed to be the case. It's just 3 of those additional locations are notable. So I'm going to roll with this because it's what we have, but going forward, hopefully I'll remember that. So here's what we have for our reasonings. Let me make sure y'all are on the right page. Okay, notability. Why are these things notable? First up, our military scholar district. So like our quote unquote West Point is a number 7. So it is notable because it's a meeting place, an establishment. The establishment is in a particular location, which is a prime landmark for people to easily meet. Tends to generate business by proximity. I mean, it's a school. It's a private academy. I guess I can roll with that. Just in and of itself, it doesn't generate money like between students when people meet. But if you think about it outside of the box a little bit, it can stand. So it is a meeting place though because nobody lives there. That was determined earlier. Okay, our Taylor in that location is a 13. I do believe. Yes, a 13. So 13 is rumors. Something intriguing has been heard about this place that, for some reason, has piqued visitors' curiosity. Ooh, okay. Nah, there's a coffee place. That fucking phenomenal. I love it, Rad. I love it. Okay, and then our additional schoolhouse is 2, which is top-notch marketing. All around the city, you can see signage or hear people mentioning the location. Okay, so it's a really good fucking schoolhouse. Outstanding. Okay, so that is... I'd thought about maybe having it be like one of the scholarly districts is the private, like the locals only, and one is people who send their kids from out of the city to study only. I don't think that's going to be the case. One is going to be general education, one is going to be military emphasis. Since Gairland has such a strong military culture, and the way that their armies are kind of set up are based on, like, in any given village or smaller town, everybody's going to respond to the one person who's in charge. And that person is going to be in charge because that's the person everybody chooses to follow. It's very much a loyalty-based thing. So they have to be the one who can hold loyalty and essentially kind of outcompete competitors, whether that's violent or just social maneuvering, which I feel like the latter will be the case this late in Garland's history. But you just keep scaling that up. So like, say the small village of Skeerd is one of the cities near Summerstone that's in that hold. It's a smaller town. So they they would all deploy if they're called up to assemble as an army. Um, they would come up, and the person in charge of the people from Skird or from some other small place, that one guy or gal would then be the one who follows directions from the next person up, who has a collection of these leaders underneath them, and they go up from there. So it's still kind of like a rank structure, but they're not armies that really know each other all that well, except by reputation or if they have family in another settlement. But so sending your kids to go to a uniform school for military training, both for combat and for like essentially officer school, is kind of a weird thing to try and conceive of. Thinking of the historic human time period in real life, but I like it for this. It makes some sense to really help explain why this place that's governed by separate holds that are very distinct and have their own little subcultures, how they can form together into a cohesive national army if they need to. I like that. Like maybe it's so good that the zealots accuse the owner of using magic, but they just have great coffee beans. And maybe the owner is also a troll and say that the only magic they add to their brews is love. I like that. That's fun. That's very fun. Oh, very good, Rad. Very, very good. Um, but yeah, so it makes sense to me that that would be like a private, more expensive scholarly district, and that's why it would need marketing. Okay, slums and the smithy in the slums. That is a 9. Okay, I need to zoom in on my PDF here because things are looking a little small when it's not in full screen. Okay, so that's a 9. Why is this smithy? Shit, I might add that to my campaign. What do you mean, Rad? Might add what? The coffee shop? Because you should. Um, 9 is for a smithy. 9 is coercion. Customers who might otherwise go somewhere else are pressured into coming here instead. This could be the owner's doing, but could also be the work of another interested party. Which, honestly, in the slums, I love that. That is very compatible. Uh, Basically, one local dude is strong arming all of the folks who live in the slums that they they can't do business elsewhere, at least not in that the poor part of town. Okay. Oh shit! I deleted my number. 15. There it is. 15. What do we have for 15? This is for the slums soothsayer. An important person, someone directly involved with this location, an owner, an employee, etc., is a major figure in the community. I believe that a soothsayer is going to be important in almost any place you go, especially in a place where there's great poverty. Somebody who's able to tell fortunes and give comfort and spiritual guidance, even if they're not a priest, or like in Nordic terms, if they're not a proper like vulva or seeress, like somebody who offers that service that people, they're going to be in business because people trust what they say. So they're still going to be important even in just that district. People in the city might not give a shit because they have their own soothsayer. God, I keep making this bad habit. I delete the number when I'm still talking, so then I don't remember what number I need to look at. Fortunately, Control Z is a thing. Okay, 8 is entertaining service for the Thatcher. Okay. Something about the folk that work here is very entertaining. Perhaps they're funny, or maybe they do demonstrations, or even have a bard who plays there regularly. Ooh, uh, I like this. So in Nordic culture, especially around holidays, a big thing was um, straw dolls and like toys, but especially dolls or like around around Yule time, so around Christmas time, goats particularly because they're important in old Scandinavian pagan religion. Um, so I really like to imagine that the Thatcher doesn't just do roofs, like that's his main thing or her main thing, but they kind of have a side gig of making like straw dolls for holidays or for family events. That's just kind of people like that. They're just a fun little person. And making dolls as a side biz is cute. Thank you, Rad. I like that. I like it a lot. I think I'm going to stick with that. And it's in my notes specifically that that's why they're considered entertaining. Okay, back to our other scholarly district, number 14. Sorry, I'm going through this because I'm trying to make some progress before I need to stop. Expansion. This place has grown recently. That's an archives library, one of three in that district. Okay, so something about that library has forced it to grow very much. Um, I'm not sure what. I might not ever know what, but for now, I'm just going to leave it at that. I might not ever need to know. My players would probably ask, okay, so why might a library expand suddenly or an archives expand suddenly? I imagine that is like a new subject matter that's recently been discovered or something that wasn't previously cataloged that might suddenly be of note to the city administration that they're like, keep track of this. Um, Trying to think. Um, I don't know. That's a hard one. Why would a library suddenly expand? I don't know much about libraries in real life, unfortunately. Like I went to them a lot as a kid because we were we were poor, but uh, like I don't remember much besides having a card because I was only a kid at the time. Okay, so not probably not that kind of library. Like if it's archives and there's three of them in this one district, influx of information. Yes, I was thinking like why would the Library of Congress or something suddenly have a big expansion of their facilities? Uh, an influx of information. So what kind of information might they suddenly care about? I'm not sure. That's probably going to be a hard one for you guys to really know without knowing a lot of the world's history. Sometimes they have protected books too. Ooh, ooh. Yes, yes, Calvin, that's awesome. So this isn't the national capital. What if like the official national archives in the capital suddenly just got a backup here? So they were suddenly told by the nation's capital that, hey, we've been at war for a long ass time. We should probably have backups of these important parts of our history and legislature. I like that. Stuff considered influential enough, even if it's not important. Yeah, yeah. What do you think, Calvin? Does that make sense enough? Do you think that might work? Because I'll be honest, if Garland's national capital, Thandor, if they got to the point of being like, hey, we want to create a sort of redundant library archive for all of the shit here, Summerstone would be the place they put it. Summerstone would be the place they put it. Okay, I like that a lot. Um, America has a lot of hidden backups across the world. Yeah, the I know what you meant about the states. Thandor's redundant archives. Okay, cool. I like that a lot. And that would be cool too for Summerstone, especially in this. I did it again. Especially in this period that I need this city fleshed out for, which is the one in the past at the end of this really big war. Um, I really, really like it for that, just because that there's stuff happening. I guess it's not really a thing I can say it on stream because even if any of my players are watching, they've figured this out. But there's a lot of unrest in these two countries because they're empires. They're huge. And there's a lot of unrest in their auxiliary territories where people are kicking the empire out. They're declaring independence on a local level. And the empires have been at war for so long, they are so short staffed on resources, on actual physical soldiers and manpower, that they can't really do anything to stop it past the point. They can only enforce law and order it so far away from the capitals to essentially be like, okay, we need to prioritize what would we consider our homeland and our most important things. So Thandor, even though it's the middle of all that for Garland, would be like, hey, if suddenly we have an insurrection from within, we should probably have backups of all our shit somewhere far away, like Summerstone. That works really well. I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. The players in this campaign just left a, a village, a pretty rural village, but still kind of important for multiple story reasons across both campaigns. Oddly enough, the small little pastoral settlement. Um, they just left it after that village declared independence because the one guy, Carolyn left one soldier there after moving some military troops through. They left one, and he was an absolute idiot. He was a drunk. He was overtaxing them and then pocketing the rest. Um, and they knew he was doing it, but he was the imperial authority. There's consequences if you go against him, even though they outnumber him by however many people in the village to one. Uh, but some story events happened, and he stood by and watched. Also because of an established cultural thing, but that was kind of a background stuff most of my players didn't pick up on. And I didn't expect them to, but like there was a reason I had him behave the way he did, and it pissed him off. There's a child who was in danger, and he did nothing about it because it involved a blood feud between two people, neither of them from Gairland, but in Gairland, blood feuds aren't always necessarily considered illegal, even if somebody dies. Uh, but this dude did nothing about it, and so they whooped his ass and kicked him out and said, "We are not part of your country anymore. You go tell your king." And so this sort of stuff is happening in a lot of different places all throughout these two warring empires, all at the same time. Um, so yeah, I really like that as the reason why they want a national backup. Anyway, 17 for the mead hall. What's the mead hall known for? I love it. Local loyalty. The concept of a mead hall as a center for where people meet with their respected leaders and respected peers, it was literally loyalty. That was why the best mead halls existed, were so that the local leader and influential person could have a place that people talked about wanting to be, where they could host people and throw these extravagant parties and give gifts of gold and silver and arm rings and other shit that they plundered or made or stole, whatever, specifically to reinforce bonds of loyalty. It's the whole reason there's a mead hall in actual Scandinavian history. So I love this. This is perfect. Local loyalty. People who live nearby know this place and stick to it out of a deep-seated loyalty, even if there would seem to be better alternatives. And this is in the public, like the non-military focused scholar district. So like, okay, we have soldiers in one. Soldiers generally tend to be loyal people, hopefully. That's kind of why a lot of people are sent there, because they want to go home and serve whoever their local ruler is, their jarl or their drengr who's in charge of the smaller areas, whatever. And so there's an assumption of loyalty to that with a military school. So what are you going to do in a place where you want to keep people loyal to Summerstone, especially if it's a lot of people who aren't from Summerstone, possibly not even from Gairland, or at least not from Gairland proper, like in the Heartland in the Imperial era. But even later on, like if you want to study like greater military things, this would probably still be the place to go. So if you're teaching a lot of outsiders how you run a military, make them loyal to you and your people. Make them love the mead hall, have fond memories of the mead hall where they met their friends. Even if they aren't people being trained in warfare, maybe that's where students from both schools mingle. And so you still remember fondly this great place of your education, so it might be more important for you to come back later as a merchant, to come back as a soldier if Garland needs you, or whatever. That I love that that's not in the military section where it would make the most sense to me initially. I love this. This is so good. And then another archives. Number 9. What's number 9? Coercion. Oh, another coercion. Customers who might go somewhere else are pressured into coming here instead. This could be the owner's doing, but could also be the work of another interested party. Okay. Especially since the Scholar District comes with an archives library. So, like, there's the new one that we rolled for. There's this one that's coercing people from going elsewhere. But there's also one that's just there by default that's not notable. So I'm wondering if that one is the one that people are being coerced away from. So for some reason, these 2 of 3 libraries are competing with each other in the same district, and I don't know why, but I'm very curious to find the answer. It's the Denny's of Summerstone. Rad, I don't think I would have ever made that comparison for a single place in Evard, but damn it, you're not wrong. This place needs a place that's like Waffle House. Pretty much, I mean, a meat hall could kind of be like that. I could see it. No, they probably have some really fancy food somewhere that's still essentially a Waffle House. Yeah, probably. I could see it. Okay, coercion. Uh, I'm going to keep moving on, but in the back of my mind, I'm going to be trying to think about why these two libraries might be competing. And really, I guess, why one of them is competing against the other one and the other one isn't doing anything about it. Because it's not a notable place. According to this sheet, it's just kind of standing there taking it. And the other one's like, no, you're going to come here. You wanna be in our archives, come study our documents instead. Like, fucking why? Chicken and waffles. Hell yeah. Chicken and lefse. Lefse is an old school Nordic, like almost kind of like a crepe, thin breadish thing, but it's moldable, kind of like a crepe, but it's not a crepe. They're really good. I like them a lot. Okay, moving on because I should. Um, Maybe it's a local one mom and pop owned versus the government funded one. Interesting. Okay. All right, Calvin. I like it. I like it, but I want to make a note of it because these are the sorts of things, especially this group of my two player groups and campaigns, this one that's about to come to this place, they're the ones that are going to discover these things about the city and ask why. So, like, they're usually the group that I need this much detail for. But a mom and pop versus the government funded library. So, what would the mom and pop library have? Like, I imagine, why would they feel a need to compete? I imagine they probably have some sort of content that the other one has, but they specialize in. So maybe why might that be? What would their specific draw that they're trying to pull people away from the the official sort of regular city archives? What would be their specific thing? I imagine the government one wants to squish out the local one. I could see that, and I guess the government one doesn't have a chance in this system to have its own notable thing. Um, oh, but if vice versa, maybe it's banned books. I could see that. Local stories, yeah. Or what if? Oh, hear me out. What if, so this is a scholarly district. By default, it comes with an archives slash library that is, unless we choose to put it in a notable location reasons spot on my sheet, it doesn't have anything notable about it inherently. So that's the school's library. So what if the one that's coercing people away is the government library? Because the school's one it might kind of have the reputation of a mom and pop, but the government library might not like that it is just as good, if not better, than what the government is providing to people. So maybe they're trying to steal people away because they're like, why is this private venture beating, the official product of the wealthiest city in the world? That shouldn't happen. We need to bring people back in. Local stories are stories that have only recently been transcribed into paper. That's a good one too, Rad. Like, I have far more people in Garland capable of reading and literacy than would have ever been the case historically in Viking Age Scandinavia, largely because Viking Age Scandinavia didn't have literacy for a very long time, not until really Christianization happened, or at least started to happen. Not in any real literacy sort of way besides pictograms and simple runes. I mean, the runes were a written language all of themselves. I'm talking in circles. Anyways, come on, Wolf. Yeah. So what about? I like the idea of the mom and pop. I don't necessarily want to like disregard that or throw that out, but something about the government trying to outdo a mom and pop made me think of, what if the government is trying to outdo the library associated with the school? Because that could be a very complete and thorough thing, whereas a little mom and pop archives, at least to me, it would feel a little out of place. I could still justify it and absolutely would. But to have that in a scholarly district where there is an established school just seems a little strange to me. Although we could absolutely put it not there. We could put it in the general space of the town. Government fighting Anyone and everyone. Oh, that sounds about right. Which, I mean, like, Summerstone has, like, people there are happy. It's a great place to live if you can afford to live there and you live very comfortably, very opulently, but they do run a tight ship in almost every regard. So having this sort of competition for use what we provide you, please, for fuck's sake, we put a lot of work into this. That I can see. I think I'm gonna go with that. But if nothing else, I want to keep the mom and pop competition idea in case anything else we come into can use that as sort of a reasoning, even if it's not these locations, but maybe somewhere else. Because I think once we get done with districts, the only other section left of city developing is like I think like notable history and like stuff to do in town if people are actually there, sort of stuff. I don't remember, um, but it could be. Yeah, mom and pop could be more quiet, staying out of it. I could see that. So maybe there is a. So in the general space of the. So, sorry, if I understand what you're saying we have these two, the school and the government, but then we have a little mom and pop records house in the general city, not part of any district, that's just trying to be like, that's none of my business anyhow, even though it's absolutely their business. Just trying to be like, leave us alone. We're the little guy here. I could see that almost like a private art gallery, but for like documents, which would be fascinating. I like that. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to fiddle with my notes here for a second, so bear with me before I move on because I don't want to lose this. I very much like this dynamic. Okay. Let's see. Maybe they have local or unwanted things like how we keep local news records. Oh, there you go. I like that. I do like that. That's a good one. Um, okay, and then archives, library, coercion. That is. Okay, unfortunately, I have a big box on my PDF that's about yay big, but I can only use the top half and then to like here. The rest of it's open space, and then the fillable section just cuts out for some stupid reason. But yes, I like that a lot, and I have that noted in here so that of the three different archives and libraries in this one district, one of them is a private, essentially a private gallery or a private collection that's still open, but it's owned privately. Uh, we have the school's library, which is the one that's being expanded by a backup of the capital's records. And then the city government that's just like, hey, maybe we couldn't handle that expansion, and so the school had to take it. Stop going to the school for everything. We still have other stuff you can come see. Or stop going to that private place. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Thank you, Calvin. Those are great ideas. Okay, we have a couple more notable locations in the market district. So the Soothsayer is a 14. What is our 14? Expansion. The place has grown recently. Okay. Soothsayer is getting popular in the market district. That makes sense. I don't think we need necessarily a particular reason for that. Not like a detail that I need other than whoever this Soothsayer is, they're probably very good and very well trusted by the people. So, yeah, the fact that we document local newspapers because, yeah, right. I guess we need a complete chronological organization of everything that happened. Oh, because it's weird and cool. Gotcha. Yeah, I I did always enjoy as a kid. I don't know if anybody else had to do these when they were younger in school, but like having to do research projects where you had to like go to the library to find old news articles, or like heaven forbid microfilm, which is a funny word to say anymore. Most people probably don't even know what it is. Uh, but to have to go look at like microfilm of old newspapers and things like that, I always enjoyed those. Like at least the actual research of it. I didn't like having to like have to go do it as homework outside of school, but I always thought the actual looking into this stuff was fun and neat. I remember having to do a project where you had to give a report on what your birthday newspaper was like. Like look for like present specific details about what the day you were born was like according to the newspaper, not just like, oh, this like March 2nd from 2 years ago, but no, like the year, the actual day and year you were born. What was it? I remember having to do that and look that up, and I remember it was a Thursday. It was cloudy. Um, it was kind of chilly because it was I have an autumn birthday, and Uncle Buck was the leading movie at the box office that week, or at least like the local theater. Uncle Buck was the hot thing to go see, which I've never actually seen it, but I really like old John Candy movies. I think they're all John Hughes productions, so fun. Uh, so much, so much would be lost if we didn't. To be fair, like birth and death records, what people did, what jobs were available, local news that would be lost without newspapers. Very, very cool. I mean, I'm in a database somewhere twice. Nice. Also, weather, people, movies, and such. Yeah, yeah. All that's great. Especially like my dad's cousin did an absolute shitload of like family lineage research before ancestry.com, before any such service was really available as a commercial product or service, where he had to like, I got a copy of all of his notes and research because I find that stuff interesting, and it's 3 terabytes of information, like scanned documents, newspaper clippings, family trees drawn out that had to be cut into scannable size pieces of paper because they were these huge things he drew on the wall, like stuff like that. But a lot of it was birth, death, and wedding records from churches is how you used to do that back in the day. And you could go back a long ways depending on where your family was from. Like my dad's side of the family, because of his cousin Eddie's research, we can track my dad's side of the family back into like the 15 or 1600s to a particular church in Sweden. And I just thought that was fascinating. And now you have 23 in me, where like 3 terabytes of data. How about one cheek swab and a stamp? Uh, but yeah, I always thought that was fascinating. Oh boy. Okay, that long thing is my Streamlabs bot message I need to update. I want to do that, but lack the motivation. Yeah, that's fair. I could never do it. I would be interested and want to, but I would never get nearly that far. There's a funny story to that though, because he changed his last name. My dad's cousin legally changed his name to match the old Swedish name that was passed down through the family. But he found out he did that when he was like, I don't remember if it was when he was 16 and he got permission or if he did it when he was 18, but he was young. But he started that early because he was always fascinated by it. But he found out sometime later, like in his 20s or 30s, it was the wrong name. He had the wrong name. He made a mistake in his research and legally changed his name to one that my family never had. And he never changed it back. These are like the only things I know about this man. I've met him once or twice in my life, but this is all I know about cousin Eddie. Uh, so that cracks me up. Anyways, we have more to do, and I want to get through these last couple because it'll be time for a wellness break. We're overdue for a wellness break by about 30% of the stream. So that's hilarious. Yeah, yeah, good times, good times. Okay, a weaver. Oh yeah, I was thinking about doing that if our original family is different, so a lot of Spaniard names are De La insert surname. Yeah. Yep. 100% rad. I I do think that would be cool. Like I've considered legally changing my name for a couple reasons over the years. Um, and a lot of them have been for like some sort of family history sort of thing. Um, I have not done it, but I do think there's a lot to that. But also one of the main reasons I didn't want to is because I heard this story and I was afraid, well, what if I get it wrong? So I can understand that trepidation. That makes a lot of sense. I cannot type today. Calvin, there's a lot of that going around, my friend. That's okay. You are understood here either way. But mine lacks it, and I'm going to try to see if we dropped it at some point. Okay, that would be an interesting project to research. That would be at least for me, and hopefully maybe for you, but I know that a lot of people probably wouldn't, but that'd be a lot of fun to research and try and find that sort of stuff. But it would be a lot of work. Even with the more modern internet tools at hand, that would be a lot of work. Gosh, I can't imagine. But if you decide to do it, uh, I wish you the best of luck, and I would love to hear any updates you come up with. Just because I think that sort of heritage research and knowing your ancestors and everything, I think that's super important and cool. All right, moving on out of necessity. I'll still probably bump back to this when something else crosses my mind, but out of necessity. Weaver shop. We have 15. What's a 15? Important person. Okay, so another important person. That makes sense with a weaver. Because, fabric is kind of a fundamental part of any civilization to the point that they've been able to build a settlement like this. Fabric is a foundational resource you're going to need a lot of. You're going to like your weavers. Especially, they're marked as a guild, so I imagine the guild leader is probably specifically important. That might be an NPC we flesh out someday. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Um, and then the last one that Calvin rolled, which was a fun entry, a rare botanicals shop. And we get a new number for that. Number 3, excellent offerings. Whatever product or service the location offers, it's good enough to draw notice. Well, it's a rare botanicals shop. Of course it fucking is. I love it. Fantastic. I don't really have any cool family history. Came from England, stayed on the east, and that's about it. Yeah, the only thing that's really particularly notable about my side, besides cousin Eddie, um, is my dad's side. When they left Sweden, they came over by stowing away on a cattle boat, uh, and so they were just hiding among cows for most of the trip. Or I don't remember if it was the whole trip or if it was just out of Sweden, and then they got on a more legitimate looking transport to get to New York, or I think they might have somehow managed to switch ships because they went through Ellis Island normally. The documentation for that was found. Um, but there, as happened to a lot of immigrants coming to America during that extremely heavy traffic time for that aspect of immigration in the country, uh, they had a pretty Swedish name, and so the guy at Ellis Island was like, "Yeah, no, this is your name now," and gave them the last name I still have today. Not to dox myself, but it's a fairly common last name that is not particularly similar, except I think they start with the same letter. That's about it. I'm a mutt, but my father's side originated in Spain. Oh, we love botany. That's so cool. Yeah, Rad, I'm sure you probably noticed that's the variety of Spanish I learned to speak back in the day. But also, I love Spain. The one time I went, love the culture and pretty much everything about it. Fun fact, Rad, have I told the story about the first words I ever said to Pez? Have I told that on stream? Well, obviously his name is John Smith. Sarcasm. That's right. I was one of the first people with blonde hair in an animated Disney movie in the Americas. I did great things and interacted perfectly wholesomely and romantically with local Native American people and saved colonist lives. I am John Smith. No sarcasm involved. Um, okay, excellent offerings. That's that. Um, we have an optional quality. We can roll for the quality of all of these places. I'm not gonna mess with that for now, just so we can keep moving. Um, but there's also a place of worship size. If we had rolled a temple district at all, or even just a notable temple location within a different district. Um, so a couple tables to roll for place of worship, quality place of worship, alignment. That's fun. Guilds uh, of a given type, citywide. All shop and service locations can be part of a guild. Roll on the table below for each shop or service to see if they're part of a citywide guild. Um, I already kind of went through and did that. You guys didn't necessarily see it, but I kind of went through and did that for the entries. I thought that was pertinent. Um, let's see, we'll have tell us about what you said to Pez. Okay, so Pez's family also, one of Pez's grandparents also immigrated from Spain. Um, and so her maiden name is a somewhat traditional Spanish last name. Um, but that's irrelevant to the story. But anyway, like, her and I met at in my freshman year of college. It was her sophomore year because I started college late. I didn't go to college until after I got out of the Army. But my freshman year, I got involved with the college archery club, which was the first time that club had existed in a long time. Somebody was revamping it, and that somebody happened to live across the hall from Pez and roped her into it. Um, and so, like, we'd seen each other at some of the meetings, but we never spoken. But we were at one of our first archery club, like, actual sessions, practice, whatever you'd call it. And she was talking to somebody else. I wasn't even involved in this conversation, but people were talking about, hey, last names and my family comes from here, sort of thing. Uh, and she had mentioned that her last name was what it was because one part of her family had come over from, or that she was one part Spanish, like from Spain. And I just happened to be walking by when that happened, and I didn't stop. As I walked by, I heard that, and I just said, "Good choice." And she just froze for a second, like much like if you've watched me when Pez is on voice on stream. Usually she says or does something that makes me just kind of stop and go, "Huh?" That's the look she gave me, as my first words to her were "good choice" over a thing that was not a choice. But yeah, my family, part of my family came from Spain. Good choice. She just looked at me and she goes, "What do you? That's not a thing you can choose." And I stopped walking. That's when I stopped walking. I turned around, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Good choice," and just walked off. And that's how I met my wife. Why good choice? Because I love Spain. I am a fan of Spain in a lot of ways. Spain's always been my go-to for the World Cup. Specifically, I speak Spain-ish when I speak Spanish. I absolutely loved pretty much everywhere I went when I was in Spain. When I was 18, a lot of the culture, the architecture, the food, I just loved all of it. I had a really great host family that kept me when I was there. So I've always had an affinity and love for the country, and pretty much everybody I've ever met that was in Spain or that I found out was from Spain, I've just had a really great experience with that particular place and everything about it in my life where we've interacted. So that was why good choice. Um, but so that brings us to the end of our district's work. We have about, by the time we take a wellness break here and get back at it, we'll only have about 45 minutes before we need to stop because I'm going to need to go pick Pez up from work. But on my PDF sheet for this, we're on the last page. So here's what we're working with is extra intrigue and a little bit of miscellaneous stuff like this. And that's what we have left. So we might actually get through with Summerstone today. Probably not to the point of playing with maps. But I will probably need to do that off stream if that's the case. So that I have it to be ready by Friday. just in case we play then. I have other plans for stream the rest of this week, but I'll put the maps up in Discord for everybody to see once I get them done, for those of you who have been following this. But for now, we're going to take a quick wellness break. And y'all know the drill. You know what to do. You know to be aware and respectful and cognizant of Millie and whatever it is that gives her the ability to do what she can do. So go ahead, take your break. Take care of yourself while you take your break. That's the whole point. Don't let Millie have an excuse to bother you when you sleep. And we'll be back in 3 minutes to hopefully wrap this up. All right, welcome back. Hope you had a good wellness break. I see Rad went BRB. That's okay. That's the time to do it. Um, yeah, I had some other thought I was going to convey, and it just probably because it's not D&D related or world building related, and that's where my head's at for this. If you couldn't tell, um, so that's usually the thoughts that flitter away in times like these. But we are almost done. I did confirm by looking in the book over break. There's not a lot left, so we should be able to wrap this up today as long as I don't get horrifically derailed. But extra intrigue. Let's do it. I need a D20. Please. What's happened in or to the city recently? What do people talk about in the streets or in the tavern? These are events that have happened within the last year. So, Calvin, Della, Rad, if you're back, any of you, if you want to roll me a d20, let's see what Summerstone's hubbub in the streets is about. I'll actually need 2 d20s, one for the next roll. Calvin rolled a 1. Okay, what's a 1? Fortunately, this is not a crit fail situation. It's just in options. Some element of city-sponsored construction collapsed and several people have been killed. What if that's the new Archives expansion? Oh, I might go with that. I think I'm going to go with that. Collapsed. Oh, this is the sort of full circle stuff I love. We can tie it all together. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, that works really, really well. Perfect. I'm very curious to see what other entries are on this table though, but I'm not gonna because I want to save it. I'm trying to not read the other options for the more variable stuff like this or what other things were on the district tables because like what's the city's size? How long has it been around? How good is the infrastructure? Like those are pretty predictable results. These are not. So I don't want to know what all the entries are unless they become pertinent. Eventually I'll learn them all probably. I mean statistically if I do this for all 100 of my settlements. Not all of them are this size, though. And the entries are probably different for some of the other sizes, because cities and villages don't have the same problems. But, like, still, theoretically, I could find them all, but I might not. I might not. Okay, so another d20. Let's see. Yeah, if somebody else wants to take it, I know Calvin's probably on a cooldown. I will roll. But if anybody else that's around wants to do it, I will override my roll with yours once yours comes in. But for now, that is a 15. Okay, what do we got for noteworthy officials on 15? Let me here scroll down so we can see what we're working with. Okay, as settlements become more complex, the need for administration and individuals able to manage it becomes more apparent. To see who in the city's administration might be notable, and on the second table to see how competent the individual in that position truly is. See, now this is fun to me because okay, Calvin said 8, so we've got 8. Out of curiosity, what would the 15 have been? Okay, yeah, 8's way better for Summerstone. Because, sorry, you guys can't see. The previous answer would have been Master of Revels, the lead organizer of festivals and special interests, which could definitely be interesting. But the Herald, the person who passes out official government news and like answers the city's questions as the first line face of the government, that makes more sense to me that they would be noteworthy, especially in this this imperial timeline that we're in, where so many things are happening. This might be one of the first people that this party of players encounters when they enter the city that they actually engage with. If this person is out there telling the news, talking about, hey, certain cities have declared independence, and I would have fun trying to figure out how they would skew that story for, you know, like national loyalty for the sake of this very prominent and patriotic place, for lack of a better term. Because at this point in time, Garland is separated into holds, but it has a stronger sense of unity because there is a king in place. There is a monarch. The later campaign, the one that's chronologically in the world later, there's no king anymore. The holds have their jarls, and the jarls rule as a council over everything. So very different sense of loyalty and patriotism, even though they're both still there. And in the latter one, they still consider themselves garish first, but it still would play out differently. So having this herald be there trying to exclaim all these news and updates, especially that could be how the players hear about the collapse of the project. They might see if there's a quest involved with that. Maybe I could come up with one. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a local news story. But I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, noteworthy official and their competence. So we need a D6 for their competence. Okay. A D6 for competence. Again, community, go ahead and roll if you would like. It'll take me a second to type this up. to create a new command for me to be able to use. So roll if you would like. And the same rules apply. Calvin rolled a 3. I rolled right as I saw that. I didn't actually see what it was. Did it not actually show on the screen? I'm not sure it did, and I can't actually read what that says on the table, so it might not actually be showing my stuff. This might be a little funky. So we're going to go 3. I was going to go with 3 anyway, but you know what I mean. 3. What is their competence level? They are incompetent. Doesn't truly understand how to execute the position. I love it. Okay, so they're known. I imagine they're probably known for getting very obvious stories wrong. Um, I'm trying to figure out how else a herald might be incompetent, other than like their whole job is to their primary function is to be the face of the government and to convey information. So let's read what the book says about the responsibilities. Disseminating official edicts and other news to the general populace. If serving in a courtly capacity, bears responsibility for knowing the names and titles of important individuals and announcing them when appropriate. I don't assume it's that kind of herald. I assume it is the just the street person on the corner, like ye old fire and brimstone preacher, but they're telling news that is actually somewhat viable instead of somebody throwing out religious threats. Perhaps they're meek. Ooh, I like that. Maybe they're meek and afraid to tell upsetting stuff, so they like soften the blow. So yeah, I imagine they try and like soften the blow and maybe make it sound like it's not as bad as it really is. Yeah, I could see that, especially too, because like, who's gonna be really able to hold them accountable unless like the Jarl or an actual witness to whatever event they're talking about happens to walk by at just the right time and be like, no, that's wrong. I definitely feel like that's happened, but like otherwise, the people in the street, most of them aren't going to know if this person's wrong, if they're underselling a serious problem in the news. Uh, and it's not like they're going to have a supervisor from the city hall that comes out and listens to them do their job. They have more important shit to deal with than that. So I like that. I like that a lot, Calvin. Thank you. Okay, we need a D12 for a beneath the surface roll. Cities are large enough places where goings on can be hidden from the knowledge of all but a few. There can often be things happening that not everyone is aware of. Roll on the table to see if there's something beneath the surface. Excuse me. That could be really fun too if we're factoring in our organized crime, our completely secret organized crime result that we got at the end of our first stream last week doing this. An 8 on a D12. Okay, what do we got beneath the surface? I think you guys can see that, or at least most of it. Unsafe. You gotta be shitting me. Unsafe. There is a structural problem with a location within the city, or possibly the land or environment it's built on. The longer it goes unnoticed, the more damaging it could be. Huh. I wonder where that could be. Perhaps in a new construction project that just shat the bed fatally. Yeah, I imagine it's yeah, but see, okay. Oh. Hold on. Maybe I can make a quest out of it. Hear me out. What if they hear this story and the herald in their incompetence and inaccuracy says that there might have been foul play? Like maybe in an attempt to hype up garish nationalism after talking about people who were declaring independence, what if they were trying to give the people some patriotism by blaming the enemy? So they get to this story about how this collapsed and they suspect that the enemy empire's agents did this to, undercut our pride and capability in our government. when that's absolutely not the case. It was just bad construction. But so they do that. Maybe if the PCs come to investigate, that Herald could be like, "Hey, you seem capable. You look like you're people who travel and do stuff. You're a ragtag bunch of people that includes a kobold, a furbolg, uh, a couple of half elves, and two old humans that are well beyond the age an adventurer should be. You must have the capability to see and deal with shit. Go investigate this." And they get there, and not only is there no sign of foul play, it is still what's left is structurally unsafe. So it's entirely environmental traps. That would be fun. That would be a very different sort of problem than what I usually put them in. Usually there is a living creature that is the adversary. There's something nefarious to uncover. But what if there's just the only thing they discover is the guys building this are just bad at their job, but they're getting paid high dollar. So I guess there could be something nefarious. It could still be like the builders of this archive expansion are just they're frauds. Like not even necessarily that they can't do the job well. They aren't. They're getting paid top dollar and they're cutting a lot of corners and it's getting people killed. They're skimping on materials, skimping on important safety steps. OSHA would have a fucking field day with these guys. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay. There's a big note section here. I'm going to have to put this all down. And so bear with me while I type this up in a way that will make sense to me later. When I'm firing this many EVART adjacent pistons, sometimes it takes me a second to write it down in a way that helped me remember all of the minor parts of this when I read it, tomorrow or on Friday. So let me get this all typed up. Hey, Chairman of, I think that's PLA, Chairman of Pla Army, thank you so much for the follow. How are you today? I appreciate having you in here, having you stop by. I can't quite tell, is that... I think if I'm seeing that emoji correctly, it's my screen's kind of far away. This is on my TV, not on a computer, and my monitor is my phone. Is that a frog wrapped in a bed sheet? I haven't seen that one before. Just chilling. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's what we like to do here. So welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us. I really appreciate it. We're figuring out some storytelling and world building for my my D&D world. I'm not sure how long you've been sitting in, but thank you for leaving a follow. That really means a lot to me. I'm happy to have you here. Let's see. So yeah, I'm gonna have to type this stuff up before I forget a lot of the intricacies. Oh God, if I can type. Oh, that's always the trick, isn't it? If I can type. Off to work I go. Best of luck. All right, Calvin, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you later. I think I only have one more roll to go, but that's okay. I'll fill you in on it later. Um, have a good day at work. Hopefully it goes smooth and fast for you in the good way. Okay. All right. Chairman, if you would like the distinction of making the last dice roll that we're going to need for this particular settlement's creation process, you don't have to. If you just want to lurk and hang out, that's perfectly okay. Um, lurkers are awesome. But if you're comfortable with it, if you could roll a d12 for me, which is just exclamation point, roll d12. And that'll roll the last die that I think we're going to need. Because the last thing that we have, let me update my page for you. Downside of me using the hard copy of the book. Sometimes I forget to change the page you guys can see. We are looking for what's beneath the surface and people's awareness of it, I think. Let's see, almost. It would be all smushed together one thing, um, without a space in between. I don't know if that was deliberate or not. I tend to mess that up depending on what platform I'm on, whether it's like Roll20 or certain Discord bots that let you roll dice. They all seem to have a different command. Um, yeah, so just exclamation point roll D12 with no spaces, and that should tie it up for us. Perfect, except the 2 doesn't look like it came through. Again, that's I, I don't know how long you've been hanging out with us, but I have had horrible issues with my typing today. Normally, I'm fairly decent at it. Okay, a 1. Oh, that's perfect. Utterly oblivious. The public has not seen or heard any hint of whatever is going on. It will go unchecked until something triggers a change. Okay, so the I mean, I feel like they're somewhat knowledgeable since there is a herald crying out that there has been structural damage, but the story they're telling is that it was sabotage from an enemy nation, so they wouldn't necessarily have any reason to suspect that it's legitimately just the builders are shitheads and they're doing things deliberately unsafe in order to earn more money. So I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Beneath the surface awareness. All right, let me type this up. There we go, structural. Okay. And I suppose we have the option to roll more dice if we want to. I'm up for it because, as you can see, we have the Great Rumor Table, which is a whole different part of the book, but we can go there just to see what else is circulating. And I think I would like to do that. At least get 1 or 2 rumors. It's always nice to have something good. And like, I can think of a couple. Damn, you write novels as well. So, yeah, also I just am not good at typing things out efficiently. So, I'll type something out, realize that's not going to make sense to me 2 days from now when I come back because I'm going to forget this important part that I want to preserve, so I have to delete it. But I mean, also, yes, I am trying to make a novel out of the game events that have taken place in this fictional world we're building. So yes, I write a lot unnecessarily, but also I'm trying to actually write novels. You are correct in multiple ways. Uh, yeah. As well, are you also one who's been accused of writing novels, or did you perhaps just come from another creator who is prone to the same thing? Either way, it's all good. It just amuses me. Okay, page 444. Good gracious, that's a jump. That is almost at the end of the book. All right, 4 4. That is not it. That's I missed a 4 in there. That's urban encounters. I'm not worried about that. Rumors. Oh my goodness, that's a D100. Okay. All right. No reason you could not have more than 1 rumor. I think I want 2 because there are definitely things in the game coming up for these people that I do have some rumors in mind for, just based on other sort of like bigger scale world events going on, or at least like regional, but I don't have a ton for good like local rumors other than what we've established here today. So, uh, if you're up for it, if you wanted to roll a D100, so the same thing, just 100 at the end, then we can come up with a couple fun rumors, and that'll be the last thing we do on stream. One, because the city project is done, but also I am going to need to shut stream down by 3 o'clock, which at least for me that's in 25 minutes. I'm not sure what time zone you're in, but That's where I am. But just in case you got busy, I I'm going to go ahead and roll one of the two D100s I need. If you end up wanting to roll one and it comes through, I'll go ahead and have yours override mine, and we can have you do it twice or just once, and I'll do it whatever. Whatever happens, happens. But I don't necessarily want to just be stagnant. Oh my goodness, I can't read that. I don't know why it's not showing my dice. Hmm. Huh. Okay, well, I guess I won't do it the fancy way where you guys can see it. I'll just do it in chat. Okay, 95. What is our rumor gonna be? I am not on the right page in my hard copy. Not by a long shot. 95, and I think for you guys I'm gonna have to scroll down because that's probably on the next page. So you'll get to see it before I do, because that's there. Almost. Almost. Good heavens. Urban encounters. Now we're on the right place. Okay, 95. Oh, capital only. We're not in a capital. The leadership is just a puppet. That works, though. That works for other stuff we have established. I mean, I'm trying to, but recently fell down a rabbit hole about language. Have to decide what. Chairman. Oh, Chairman. You really are speaking my language. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna put a pin in that for the moment. Uh, but I think you and I have a fun thing to discuss real quick before I end the stream, because we only have this to do one or two more times. You got a 13. I'm not sure if you saw or if you heard me mention, but we started doing this city building session last Tuesday, um, and the last thing we determined was what's the city's crime level like, and if it's bad enough, how bad or what nature is any organized crime they may or may not have. Which the whole point of this city, sorry if I'm reiterating, I'm just not sure how much you've seen or heard, and we've gone over a lot. Um, we the city it's the wealthiest city in this world. They have the best law enforcement. They have the best like everything. It is the pinnacle of what a city could be, even though it's not the biggest in size. It's only like a medium-sized city. But it was also determined that their crime is really, really dangerous and intense. Um, as it looks in the book, probably that it's super frequent. But the term they use is it is dangerous crime levels. So I take that to mean it's not necessarily rampant, but when it happens, it's more extreme and dangerous to people. So less like, just mugging somebody as straight up just killing them in an alley. Um, but the city still has law enforcement and money to pay for law enforcement, so they try. But it was also determined that crime level is the worst that you can get in this book's random determination system. So that qualified for, let's see if there's organized crime. And if there is, what's the nature of it? Do people know about it? Or do people suspect it? Do people care? Maybe people like it. And it was a complete secret. Nobody except the people involved know that there is an organized crime element in the city, which is fun because my wife plays in both of these campaigns that this city is going to be in, uh, and she tends to play rogues. So there is an established kind of organized crime element that is global, but it's more like a network. It's more like LinkedIn, but for really accomplished criminals who catch the eye of the people who run this organization. So you can pretty much go to most major urban areas, and if you know the signs to look for, you can find somebody who's a part of it that can kind of give you some resources or give you a lead on jobs or give you a spot to lay low, that sort of thing. And I think that this super secret organization has nothing to do with that. So the fact that we got even though this isn't a capital city, the leadership is just a puppet of another entity. Oh, that fits beautifully, and I'm still going to use it. Okay, but you got a 13. So let's see what 13 is. Okay, 13 should be visible for you. A strange beggar has been seen telling any who will speak to them predictions about their future, and some have come true. Ooh, I love that. Okay, cool. That's awesome. These are very good. Let me take my notes. afternoons. Okay, so there's that, and then okay, and this is going to be the last thing I have to type, and then I plan to nerd out with you for a second about language. All right, let me hit save because I forget to do that when I am this creatively jazzed. Okay, so that's it for Summerstone. I'm probably going to make a map off stream, but I'm going to put it in. If you are interested, Chairman, I do this doing world building stuff on stream is actually new for my channel. But I'm going to be doing it more specifically at about this time in the afternoons. Um, Most of my content has been doing video game let's plays. Um, but there is a whole corner. I have a Discord server. If you would be interested in joining, there's a spot specifically to nerd out about tabletop RPGs. If you like video games, there's stuff there. You don't have to. That's no pressure. But a lot of the follow-up stuff for this and other sorts of things between streams is going to be put in there if you ever want to take part. So if you want it, you don't have to say anything, yay or nay. There's the link. No pressure. But that's where the map is going to go once I'm done with it. But so language, the whole reason that I have started putting the stuff on stream, I've wanted to for a long time. But the main thing that really got me involved was language, because um, I knew that I have been wanting to mess with fictional language for a long time because linguistics is a thing I've always had a passion for, um, and been super interested in. But I've been putting it off because I know that when I start messing with fictional languages, that's a rabbit hole I'm probably not going to come out of for a long time. Like I'm putting it off until I get at least more progress done on my manuscript for my first book, um, because I want to be able to incorporate some of it into the book as part of it, but mostly because that's all I'm going to work on for a long time. Um, but so like I've been listening to, I don't know if you know what the great courses are, but they're a series of like they're I listen to them on Audible, so it's an audiobook, but they're organized by topic, and it's a professor or a subject matter expert that is picked by this this I don't know company, people, producer, whatever that make these recordings as a subject matter expert both in knowledge and in their ability to convey their knowledge well and entertain in an entertaining manner. And I'm listening to one right now that's all about language families of the world. And so I've been listening to that, trying to get ideas and little snippets of things about linguistics I hadn't known before in order to use for fictional language. And that's the whole thing that kind of kicked me into I really want to start doing world building stuff on stream and working on my world building again. I hadn't really been working on it because of some D&D related uh, depression funk that's a carryover from last year, but that's been fading away. It's been exciting. So, what sorts of what language rabbit hole did you fall down into if you're willing to share? I would love to hear because we've got a few minutes before I like need to end stream. Yeah, besides the fictional ones, I'm also in a hole about the prose being used. Like, would The Witcher exist if not for the Polish author? Ooh, that's a great question. I like that. That that is, I don't know. Admittedly, as much as I enjoy what I've been exposed to, I'm not horribly familiar with The Witcher as the books, let alone the author. But like, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I huh. I I assume not so much like would these exist if the Polish author didn't write them, would somebody have a similar idea? But more like if it wasn't the circumstances of that author and their Polish heritage, like, and whatever factors that I'm not aware of personally play into that helping the book go big. I think is how I'm interpreting what you're saying has been your thing. I'm going to hop us off this book because it's not relevant anymore. I'm at a point where I have to choose between two languages. It drives me insane. Okay, all right. Um, well, if you ever want I don't know, to brainstorm stuff, I mean, I'm here. That Discord server would be a good place to do it too between streams. Um, but I'm not just doing this because I want to show off my stuff. That I don't. I mean, as an insecure person, yeah, I have an abnormal amount of pride in this whole thing, but that's not why I do it. I want to be able to exchange these ideas, and I love hearing other people's stories and help them get through a lot of the same brainstorming stuff that my wife helps me with, and that like you've been helping with, and everybody else in chat today. So yeah, if you ever want to bounce ideas for language or whatever, there's you can always hit me up, whether it's there or even just in Twitch. There's the whisper messages that very few people ever really seem to use. Um, but yeah, if that helps you make, uh, if that helps you with getting past the point you feel like you're stuck on, I'm happy to be that person, even if it's just you literally just tell things to me, I don't say a thing, and you find your answer. Or if you want input and we workshop together a little bit without me really knowing anything about the overall grand thing of your project, I'd love to hear it. Like I'm all for it. So yeah, I'm really excited that you stopped in and gave us a chance and gave us a follow. I think there's going to be even if you're not super into like video game content, hopefully I think starting next week, more sort of world building stuff like this is going to happen consistently at least once or twice a week in the afternoons. Um, so we'll have opportunities to still sort of engage in this sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. I wasn't necessarily I never expect anybody to just stumble onto the channel. Um, but like especially since I haven't been doing this sort of stuff very long, it's really cool that I don't know, maybe somebody told you to stop in, but I mean, I usually only have the same couple of people that talk about these sorts of things instead of video games, and usually they tell me if, hey, I'm gonna bring somebody to check it out. So I don't know if you found us by stumbling in, and if you did, that's awesome. Thanks for giving a chance. There's a really cool community here full of a lot of fantasy friends that found you through the writing tag. Okay, cool. I appreciate it. I'm glad that worked. Glad to hear that from you. Um, but yeah, I don't necessarily know that I'll do a ton of like actual writing on stream, just because I would love to. I just don't know if my current channel people would be super interested to watch, but if that's a thing that people would want to see, I think this is a nice medium just to still get the idea of brainstorming and the creativity that comes with writing, but it's not just sitting there and watching somebody type all the time. Instead, you're just sitting there reading the same PDF I'm reading. I guess that's not much better. But anyway, I'm floundering. My creative brain has been firing pretty heavy for the first time in a long time, so don't mind me. Usually I'm a little more composed. Uh, but like I said, this is the first time in a while I've been this excited to do this stuff and work on this project again. So uh, it's I'm still getting used to it again. It's been months since I've been this jazzed about working on this world and working on my books. I tried to do NaNoWriMo the last 2 years. Last year in NaNoWriMo, I think I wrote only half of the days, but I got over 50% done in November with getting to 50,000 words. So that was a lot of fun, and I was really hoping to have more time and get more to the thing this year or in 2023. But that didn't end up happening. I said last year. That was two NaNoWriMos ago now. Anyway, oh goodness. I tried Nano as well, at least before my language crisis. Yeah, yeah, that's it's like 50,000 is it's a big number. So it's a goal that's like, okay, yeah, that's a lot of words, but it's a whole month. I can do that, right? At least that was my experience. Was like, I know it's gonna be a challenge, but I can probably do it, even if I'm not doing it every day. Just because when I actually get to work on a manuscript, I usually knock out way more than what NaNoWriMo needs the daily average to be in a day. Granted, that's a rough draft, and most of it's gonna get snipped and cut down. But like when I did it for the first time in 2000, I guess that would have been in 21 NaNoWriMo, I was just like, yeah, I get why this is the big challenge that everybody gives it the respect for being. Like, I mean, life happens was a large part of it and just gets in the way. And it's like, all right, let's see if you really can pull off 50,000 words in 4 weeks. Um, yeah, I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, I mean, I would love to hear about the languages you're choosing between. Um, Sort of where your pros and cons are for each of them, why those two are the ones that you're stuck with and not something else. I'd be interested to hear all that if you're ever wanting to chat about it. So, and I've got a couple minutes here if you want, but that might be a rabbit hole I have to cut short early. So I think I might go ahead and say let's start that in Discord if you feel like stopping in. Otherwise, the next time we have a stream like this that's not video gaming but more writing and world building, I'd love to hear about it then too if we haven't started yet. Um, I always feel bad to have to end a stream after somebody hops in for the first time, but hopefully I really hope we'll get to see you again. But I think I'm probably going to call the stream here just so I can take care of my pets before I have to leave the house. But thank you so much. Sorry, I know I'm rambling an awful lot and you you're having to type in response and there's a delay and everything, but yeah, we try and be super chill here no matter what we're doing. Even if it's a video game that's competitive, we try and be chill and laid back about it, or it's just a chill game. Wanting to do this with some nice calming music and everything. Like, I mean, you can see this. I'm on my sofa and I stream off of my TV and not some fancy dual monitor with the ring light right there. And we're laid back here. It's a really fun community that that shows up. And yeah, if you're just wanting to hang out and chill in your blanket wrapped up, I think I think you'll have a lot of fun. Even if it's not with me, just with the other people here, because they're here because they like the same mindset. So thanks for coming out today, Chairman. I look forward to chatting with you some more in the future. Thank you everybody else for helping me get through Summerstone and our current task. The maps will go up in Discord, and I'm not sure what aspect of world building we'll work on next. It might be settlements. People seem to be at least somewhat entertained by doing the settlement building. I have over 100 settlements in my world. Most of them need this done to them. So we could do that, or characters. I'll figure it out. Or there's a place in Discord to suggest what you want to see. So any and all that is up in the air. I'm just glad to hang out with y'all. So everybody take care of yourselves. Uh, have a good rest of your afternoon. It is Two Stream Tuesday, so I will be back tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. It is going to be gaming content. Tonight, I'm it, tonight I'm going to be starting Destiny 2. I've played that personally, but never on stream. So we're starting that from scratch. I don't know if that's a thing you'd be interested in. If not, no worries. I don't judge anybody on their what they're into and what they're not. But it's a really fun game that has a cool story so far. It is addictive. Okay, I'm glad you're familiar with it. I started playing it a month or two ago only, and I've only had one character, so I'm going to start a new game in a different class on stream so that other people can see kind of how it all starts and the how you get introduced to the lore and the world, which I think has been super fun. Um, so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. If you feel like stopping in and you can, that would be awesome. Otherwise, I'll keep an eye out for you in the future. But have a good rest of your afternoon. And yeah, thanks again. We'll see you soon.